an original werewolf story written by Wicked Serenity Library. I spent 8 years as the barren Luna of Mountain Shadow Pack, enduring judgment and whispers while desperately trying to conceive an heir for my mate, Alpha Kavreith. On the same day, I discovered I was finally pregnant. I walked in on Kavreith in bed with my sister, Azrienne. Shattered and broken, I fled the pack with my loyal friend Alowan, disappearing into the night. I gave birth alone to a son, Zephran, and spent 3 years hiding in Dead Moon Pack under the false identity of Sarah, a widow starting over. There I found unexpected love with Alpha Dravon Shadowmere, a kind and patient man who cherished both my son and me. But the past always catches up. When Kavreith arrived at Dead Moon territory for a business meeting, he discovered the truth. I was alive, and the 3-year-old boy I'd been raising was his son, the heir he'd been searching for. Pack law was clear. The child belonged with his alpha father, and I, still legally bound to Kavreith through our unbroken mate bond, was forced to choose between losing my son or returning to the man who destroyed me. Now, as both alphas demand answers, and I carefully rebuild life crumbles around me, I must face the impossible truth. Some betrayals can never be forgiven, and some choices have no right answer. My name is Luna Thalindra, and this is how my story continues. Chapter 1. The world had gone silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence, the kind that comes with morning dew and birdsong, and the promise of a new day. This was the silence of shock, of devastation. The kind that fills your ears with cotton and makes every sound feel distant and unreal. I stood at the Dead Moon border, my knees weak, my hands still reaching toward empty air where my son had been just moments ago. "Zephran!" My voice cracked, raw and desperate. "Zephran, please!" But Kavreith's warriors were already disappearing into the tree line, my baby's screams echoing back to me like knives to the chest. "Mama! Mama! No, I want my mama!" I tried to run after them, tried to shift, to let my wolf take over and chase them down, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. They buckled beneath me, sending me crashing to my knees on the hard-packed earth. "Thalindra," Beta Corin's voice came from somewhere behind me, cautious and careful. "Don't!" I screamed, whirling on him. "Don't you dare! Speak to me! You let him do this! You stood there and watched him rip my child from my arms!" Corin's face was a mask of professional neutrality, but I saw the guilt flickering in his eyes. "Pack law is clear, Luna. The heir belongs. I'm not your Luna!" The words tore from my throat like broken glass. I haven't been your Luna for 3 years. I'm nothing to Mountain Shadow Pack, nothing to Kavreith, nothing to any of you. Then why did you never formally reject the bond? The question came from Kavreith himself, who'd stopped at the forest edge, watching me with those amber eyes that had once made my heart race. Now they just made me feel sick. I staggered to my feet, my whole body shaking with rage and grief, and a helplessness so profound, it threatened to swallow me whole. Because I was pregnant, and terrified, and trying to survive. Because I thought if I just disappeared, you'd eventually move on with Azrienne and forget I ever existed. Because I was broken, Kavreith, shattered into so many pieces I didn't even know how to begin putting myself back together, let alone navigate pack politics and formal rejection ceremonies. So you hid my son from me instead. His voice was flat, emotionless, but his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. For 3 years you let me believe I'd driven you to your death. Let the pack mourn you. Let me... His voice cracked slightly. Let me live with that guilt every single day while you were here, playing happy family with another alpha. I wasn't playing at anything. I took a step toward him, my wolf rising despite my exhaustion. I was surviving. I was building a life where my son would be safe, where he wouldn't have to grow up watching his mother be judged and dismissed and treated like she was worthless because her womb took too long to work. He's my son, Thalindra. Mine, And you had no right. I had every right, I was screaming now, all the pain and rage of 3 years pouring out of me like poison. You destroyed me. You took everything I was, everything I believed in, and you shattered it. And then you expect me to just, what, come crawling back? Pretend it never happened? Raise our son in a pack that spent 8 years making me feel like I was broken? I made a mistake. A mistake? I laughed, sharp and bitter. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something thoughtless during an argument. What you did, fucking my sister in our bed on the same day I found out I was finally carrying your child, that wasn't a mistake, Kavreith. That was a choice, a deliberate, cruel, devastating choice. Silence fell between us, heavy and suffocating. The remaining Dead Moon warriors were watching from a distance, their expressions carefully neutral. Beta Corrin looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. And Kavreith looked like I'd physically struck him. "You're right," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "It was a choice. The worst choice I've ever made. And I've spent every single day since then wishing I could take it back. Wishing I could explain. There's nothing to explain." I cut him off. "You wanted her. You took her. End of story. It's not that simple." "It is that simple." My voice broke completely. "You chose her over me. And now you're choosing pack law over what's right. You're using our son, using Zephran as a weapon to force me back into a life I escaped." "I'm bringing my family home," Kavreith said, and there was steel in his voice now. Authority. The alpha command that made lesser wolves submit. Our son needs his father, needs his pack, needs to be raised as the heir he was born to be. "Our son needs his mother," I shot back. "The woman who's been there for every moment of his life, who held him when he cried, who taught him to walk and talk and—" My voice shattered completely. "Who loves him more than her own life." "Then come home." Kavreith took a step toward me, his hand extended like he thought I might actually take it. "Come back to Mountain Shadowpack. Be his mother there. We can—" "No." The word came out quiet, but absolute. His hand dropped. "Thalindra, no." Louder now, firmer. "I won't go back to that place. I won't subject myself to the Elder's judgment and the Pack's whispers and your—" I choked on the words. "I won't watch you with her. Won't sit at council meetings while Azrienne plays Luna in everything but name. Won't pretend that what you did to me can ever be forgiven." Something dangerous flashed across Kavreith's face. "Then you're choosing to abandon your son." Again. The words hit me hard. I actually staggered backward, my hand going to my chest like I could somehow hold my breaking heart together. "You can't," I whispered. "You wouldn't. I can. And I will." His voice had gone cold. Final. "Pack law is clear, Thalindra. The heir stays with the alpha. If you refuse to return, you're voluntarily relinquishing your parental rights. Zephran will be raised in Mountain Shadowpack. By me. Without you." "He's 3 years old," I screamed. "He needs his mother. He'll be terrified without me." "Then, come home." Each word was punctuated, deliberate, a command wrapped in an ultimatum. "I can't." "You mean you won't?" "I mean I can't." Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and bitter. "I can't go back there, Kavreith. I can't survive it again. The judgment, the scrutiny, the constant feeling of being less than, because I couldn't give you what you needed fast enough. I can't—" My voice broke completely. "I can't watch you love someone else while pretending to be your mate." "I don't love Azrienne," Kavreith said quietly. I laughed, bitter and broken. "That somehow makes it worse." He stared at me for a long moment, something unreadable in his eyes. Then he turned away, his shoulders tense, his voice carrying across the clearing. "You have 3 days, Thalindra. 3 days to come to Mountain, Shadowpack of your own free will, After that, I invoke Alpha's right of succession. Zephran becomes a full member of Mountain Shadow Pack, and you lose all legal claim to him." "You can't do that!" I lunged forward, but Beta Corin was suddenly there, blocking my path. "Corin, please. You know this is wrong. You know—" "I'm sorry, Luna." And he did look sorry. Genuinely, deeply sorry. But pack law is absolute. The Alpha has the right to claim his heir. 3 days, Kavreith repeated, not looking back. Choose wisely. And then he was gone, disappearing into the forest with his warriors, leaving me standing at the border with my world in pieces around me. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes? Hours? Time had lost all meaning. The Dead Moon warriors had dispersed, giving me privacy, or maybe just uncomfortable with witnessing my complete breakdown. The forest was quiet except for the sound of my ragged breathing and the occasional bird call. My son was gone. The thought kept circling my mind, surreal and devastating. Zephran, my baby, my whole world, my reason for surviving these past 3 years, was being carried away by strangers to a pack he'd never known, to live with a father he'd just met. And he was screaming for me. I could still hear his voice in my head. "Mama, Mama, no, I want my mama." A sound escaped my throat, something between a sob and a scream. My knees gave out again, and this time I didn't try to catch myself. I collapsed onto the hard ground, my hands clawing at the earth like I could somehow anchor myself to reality. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. "Thalindra!" The voice made me flinch. I looked up to find one of Draven's beta standing a respectful distance away, his expression carefully neutral. "Alpha Draven requests your presence at the pack house," he said formally. "There are matters that need to be discussed." Draven. God's Draven. In the chaos of losing Zephran, I'd almost forgotten about him, about the way he'd looked at me when the truth came out, about the betrayal written across his face when he realized I'd lied to him for 8 months. But maybe he'd understand. Maybe once the shock wore off, he'd see that I'd been trying to protect myself, protect Zephran. Maybe he'd help me fight Kavreith, help me get my son back. Maybe he'd forgive me. I clung to that hope like a lifeline as I forced myself to stand. My legs were shaking, my whole body trembling with exhaustion and grief, but I made them work. "Take me to him," I said, my voice hoarse from screaming. The beta nodded and turned, leading me back through the forest toward Dead Moon territory, toward the pack house, toward Draven, toward what I desperately hoped would be salvation. The pack house was quiet when we arrived. Too quiet. Like someone had warned the staff to make themselves scarce. The beta led me through corridors I'd walked 100 times over the past 8 months, past the study where I'd reviewed ledgers, past the dining hall where Draven and I had shared meals, past the gardens where Zephran had played while I worked. Every step felt surreal, like I was walking through a ghost of my life. We stopped outside Draven's private quarters, rooms I'd never been invited to, rooms that were his sanctuary away from pack business and responsibility. "He's inside," the beta said quietly. Then, more gently, "I'm sorry, Sarah. Thalindra. Whatever your name is. I'm sorry for what's happening to you." I nodded, unable to speak, and reached for the door handle. The beta caught my wrist. Maybe knock first? Something in his tone made warning bells go off in my head, but I was too exhausted, too desperate, too broken to pay attention to them. I knocked. 3 sharp raps against heavy wood. No answer. I knocked again, louder. "Draven? It's me. Please, I need to talk to you. I need—" A sound from inside stopped me cold. A woman's laugh. Breathy and satisfied and intimate, in a way that made my blood run cold. No. No, 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 no. My hand was on the doorknob before I could think. I shoved it open, and the world ended for the 2nd time in 3 hours. Draven was on his bed, naked, with a woman I'd never seen before straddling his lap, her back arched, her hands in his hair. Empty bottles littered the floor. Expensive whiskey that Dravon only drank when he was trying to forget something. They didn't notice me immediately. Too lost in each other. Too consumed by what they were doing. I made a sound. Something broken and inhuman. Dravon's head snapped toward the door. His storm-gray eyes, clouded with alcohol and desire, widened when they landed on me. Thalindra! He tried to move, to push the woman away, but his movements were clumsy, uncoordinated. Drunk. He was drunk. Drunk and fucking someone else less than 3 hours after learning the truth about me. I tried to speak, but no words came. My throat had closed completely. The woman finally turned, her expression shifting from pleasure to annoyance. Seriously? Who the fuck is this? Get out, Dravon slurred at her, his eyes never leaving mine. Get out, now. But we weren't done. Get out! The woman grabbed her clothes with a huff and stormed past me, shooting me a glare like I was the one who'd interrupted something sacred. The door slammed behind her. Silence. Dravon was staring at me, his face a mask of guilt and drunken confusion, and something that might have been shame. He was still naked, still obviously aroused, still smelling like sex and whiskey and betrayal. Thalindra, he said again, his voice thick. You weren't supposed to. My knees gave out. I didn't feel myself fall. Didn't feel my body hit the floor. Didn't feel anything except the sensation of everything shattering inside me. Kavreith had taken my son, and Dravon, kind, patient Dravon, who'd made me believe I could be loved again, had taken my hope. I heard Dravon calling my name. Heard him stumbling off the bed, cursing, trying to reach me. But I was already gone. Already retreating into that dark place inside myself where nothing could hurt me because I'd stopped feeling anything at all. The world went black, and I welcomed the darkness like an old friend. Chapter 2. I woke to the smell of lavender and expensive perfume. My head was pounding, a dull throb behind my eyes that made thinking difficult. My body felt heavy, disconnected, like I was inhabiting someone else's skin. For a blissful moment, I didn't remember where I was, or why everything hurt. Then it all came crashing back. Zephran screaming for me as Kavreith's warriors carried him away. The door opening. The woman on Dravon's lap. The empty bottles. The devastating realization that I'd been replaced in the span of 3 hours. The blackout. I jerked upright, my heart racing, and immediately regretted it. The room spun violently, and I had to grip the mattress beneath me to keep from falling. I was on a bed. Not the floor where I'd collapsed. An actual bed with silk sheets and far too many pillows. This wasn't Dravon's room. The decor was different. More feminine. Softer colors and delicate furniture that screamed wealth and refinement. Finally awake, I see. The voice made my blood dry. I turned my head, slowly, because the pounding in my skull protested any sudden movement, and found her sitting in an ornate chair by the window. The woman from Dravon's bed. She was dressed now in an expensive gown that hugged her curves, her dark hair styled in elaborate braids. Beautiful in that effortless, infuriating way that made me acutely aware of my own disheveled appearance. She was watching me with an expression that could only be described as amused contempt. "Where?" My voice came out as a croak. I swallowed hard, tried again. "Where is Dravon?" "Alpha Dravon," she corrected, her tone sharp. "You should show proper respect when speaking of your betters." My hands clenched in the silk sheets. "Where is Alpha Dravon? I need to speak with him." The woman laughed, a cold, crystalline sound that made my skin crawl. "Oh, darling, that's adorable. You actually think he wants to see you? I need to explain what? That you lied to him for 8 months? That you were using him while hiding from your actual mate? That you let him fall in love with you, With a ghost, a fiction, a woman who doesn't even exist? She stood, crossing the room with predatory grace. He knows all of that already, Sarah. Or should I call you Thalindra? It's so hard to keep track of your identities. I forced myself to sit up straighter despite the way my head spun. Who are you? I'm Lysandra. She said it like I should recognize the name. When I didn't react, her eyes narrowed. Drayvon's former mate, the woman he loved before you came along with your sob story, and your convenient amnesia about your past. Former mate. The words hit me like a storm. I didn't know, I started. Of course you didn't know. You were too busy playing the tragic widow, weren't you? Poor little Sarah, all alone with her fatherless child, needing a big, strong alpha to save her. Lysandra's voice dripped venom. You manipulated him, used his kindness and his loneliness against him. And when the truth finally came out, you have the audacity to come crawling back here looking for forgiveness? I need to see him, I insisted, my voice stronger now despite the pain radiating through my skull. I need to explain what happened. Why I lied. He needs to know. He doesn't need to know anything from you. Lysandra's expression hardened. Drayvon doesn't want to see you, doesn't want to speak to you, doesn't want anything to do with a filthy, lying thing like you. The words were a slap across the face. He told you that? He didn't have to. I know him better than anyone. Better than you ever could. She moved closer, and I could smell alcohol, on her breath mixed with that cloying perfume. You broke something in him last night, when he realized you'd been lying this whole time, that everything you built together was based on deception. It destroyed him. So you took advantage of that? The accusation burst out before I could stop it. He was drunk and hurting and I gave him what he needed, Lysandra cut me off smoothly. Comfort, familiarity, someone who doesn't lie to him. Her smile was sharp as a knife. Someone who actually belongs in his world instead of pretending to be someone they're not. I wanted to scream at her, wanted to call her a liar and a manipulator and demand to see Drayvon so I could explain everything. But looking at her smug expression, at the satisfaction radiating from her every pore, I realized something devastating. It didn't matter. Even if Drayvon would see me, even if I could explain why I'd lied, what would change? I was still Kavreith's Luna, still legally bound to another alpha, still facing an impossible choice between my son and my freedom. And Drayvon, kind, patient Drayvon who'd made me believe I could be loved again, had crawled into bed with his ex-mate the moment things got complicated. I want my things, I said quietly, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. My clothes, my belongings from the cottage. Already disposed of, Lysandra said breezily. Drayvon wanted all traces of you removed from Pack property. Can't say I blame him. The casual cruelty of it, the idea that everything I'd built here could be erased so quickly, so completely, made my chest constrict. Those were my possessions, my son's toys, his clothes, not important. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from pure, incandescent rage. This woman knew nothing about me, nothing about what I'd survived, what I'd built, what I'd lost. And she stood there in her expensive gown, in rooms I'd never been invited to, passing judgment like she had any right. Get out, Lysandra said, her voice dropping into command. Get out of Dead Moon territory. You're not welcome here anymore. I need to speak with Drayvon. Guards! Lysandra's voice rang out, sharp and authoritative. The door burst open. 2 of Drayvon's warriors, men I recognized, men I'd smiled at and greeted countless times over the past 8 months, entered with expressions of professional neutrality. Escort this woman off Pack grounds, Lysandra ordered, and make sure she understands she's not to return. You can't do this, I said, my voice rising in desperation. You have no authority to— I'm acting on Alpha Drayvon's orders, Lysandra interrupted smoothly. He wants you gone. Should I fetch him so he can tell you himself? So you can see the disgust on his face when he looks at you? The threat landed hard, because some horrible, self-destructive part of me wanted to say yes. Wanted to see Dravon, even if he looked at me with hatred, just to hear him say the words himself, but I couldn't. Couldn't bear to see that expression on his face. Couldn't survive another betrayal today. "Fine," I whispered. "I'll go." The warriors moved to flank me, their hands hovering near my arms like they expected me to fight. But I didn't have any fight left. I stood on shaking legs, my head still pounding, my whole body feeling like it had been wrung dry. "Wait!" Lysandra called out as I reached the door. I turned back, some foolish part of me hoping she'd changed her mind, that she'd show mercy. Her smile was cruel and satisfied. "Don't come back, Thalindra. Draven has suffered enough because of women like you. Women who lie, who manipulate, who use his kindness against him." She paused, letting the words sink in. He deserves better. And he's finally realized that. I didn't respond. Couldn't respond. Just turned and let the warriors escort me through corridors that had once felt like home. We passed pack members in the halls, staff I'd worked with, wolves I'd shared meals with. They averted their eyes when they saw me being escorted out, their expressions carefully blank. No one spoke. No one asked what was happening. They already knew. The whole pack probably knew by now. About the lies. About Kavreith. About my spectacular fall from grace. The warriors walked me out of the pack house and stopped. One of them, Thompson, a young wolf who'd always been kind to Zephran, looked uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, Thalindra," he said quietly. "For what it's worth." "It's worth nothing," I replied, and watched him flinch. Then I left the pack house, the cottage where Zephran had played, where I'd found purpose, leaving Dravon and the future I'd foolishly let myself imagine, leaving everything. Again. The crimson moon looked exactly the same. Red velvet curtains, crystal chandeliers, the familiar scent of perfume and incense and expensive liquor. I stood outside the entrance for a full minute, staring at the ornate doors, wondering if I'd even be welcome here anymore. But I had nowhere else to go. No belongings, no money, no plan beyond surviving the next hour. So I pushed through the doors and stepped into my past. Madame Kestra looked up from behind the bar, her sharp eyes widening in surprise. "Sarah? What are you—" She stopped, taking in my disheveled appearance, my red-rimmed eyes, the way I was swaying slightly on my feet. Sweet moon goddess. What happened? The working girls had noticed me now. Conversations died. Music stopped. Everyone was staring. "I need my old job back," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "If you'll have me." Kestra was around the bar in seconds, her hands on my shoulders, her expression concerned. "Sarah, talk to me. Where's Zephran? What happened at the pack house? We heard there was some kind of confrontation. I don't want to talk about it." The words came out flat. Final. "But your son is safe." The lie tasted like poison. "He's with family. I need to work, need to keep busy. Can I have my position back or not?" Kestra studied me for a long moment, her eyes too knowing, too perceptive. But she was also kind. Always had been. And she understood that sometimes people needed to lick their wounds in private. "Of course," she said finally. "Your old room at Moret's is still available if you need. I'll take it." I cut her off before she could finish the sentence. Before kindness could break through the numb shell I'd built around myself. "Thank you." "Sarah, please." My voice cracked slightly. "Please don't ask me questions. Not yet. I need time." She nodded slowly, then squeezed my shoulders. "All right, go get settled. We'll talk when you're ready." I escaped before anyone else could corner me with concern or questions. Made it to Mirette's boarding house through sheer force of will, my legs moving automatically while my mind went blissfully blank. Mirette herself was out, probably at the market. I climbed the stairs to my old room, the one I'd lived in with Zephran before Dravon had offered us the cottage. before everything had fallen apart. The room was exactly as I'd left it 3 months ago. Small, sparse. The bed that Zephran and I had shared. The tiny kitchen where I'd made his meals. The window that looked out over the alley instead of gardens. This was my life now. This tiny room. This dead-end job. This existence I'd fought so hard to escape. I closed the door behind me and locked it, crossed to the bed and sat down carefully, like any sudden movement might shatter what little control I had left. For a long moment, I just sat there, breathing, existing, trying not to think about Zephran crying for me, about Draven in bed with Lysandra, about the 3 days ticking down like a death sentence. Then, finally, the dam broke. I collapsed onto the bed and sobbed, deep, wrenching sobs that tore from somewhere in my chest and echoed off the bare walls. I cried for my son, stolen from my arms. I cried for Draven, who I'd lost before I'd ever really had him. I cried for myself, for the woman I'd been, the woman I'd tried to become, the woman I'd never get to be. I cried until my throat was raw, and my eyes were swollen, and there was nothing left inside me but emptiness. And then, in that emptiness, something else began to grow. Anger. Not the hot, explosive rage from earlier. This was cold, calculating, sharp as a blade, and just as deadly. Kavreith thought he could use pack law to force my hand. Thought he could take my son and manipulate me into returning. Thought I was weak, broken, desperate enough to accept any terms just to be near Zephran. He was wrong. Draven thought I was a liar and a manipulator. Thought I'd used him. Thought I deserved to be discarded like trash the moment things got complicated. He was wrong too. They both saw me as something to be controlled, to be judged, to be punished for daring to survive in a world that wanted me broken. But I was done being controlled, done being judged, done being punished. I had 3 days before Kavreith invoked his alpha's right and took Zephran from me permanently. 3 days to come up with a plan. 3 days to find a way to get my son back without surrendering myself to the man who'd destroyed me. 3 days to prove that I was more than they thought, stronger than they believed, dangerous in ways they'd never anticipated. I sat up slowly, wiping my face with the back of my hand. My reflection in the small mirror across the room looked like a stranger, eyes red and swollen, hair tangled, face blotchy from crying. But beneath the devastation, I saw something else. Something that had been buried for 3 years under fear and desperation, and the need to just survive. I saw Luna Thalindra Thornwick, not the broken woman who'd fled Mountain Shadowpack, not the timid widow playing at being common, not the desperate mother begging alphas for mercy. The Luna. The woman who'd managed pack politics for 8 years, who'd survived judgment and betrayal and loss, who'd raised a child alone in enemy territory while building a new life from nothing. That woman was still in there, still alive beneath all the pain, and she was done running. I stood, my legs steady now, my mind clearing. Crossed to the small desk in the corner and pulled out parchment and ink. I had 3 days. Time to make them count. Time to show both Kavreith and Draven exactly what happened when you backed a Luna into a corner. Time to fight. Not for survival this time. For victory. Chapter 3. The knock on my door came 3 hours after I'd sent the message. I'd written it carefully, my hand steady despite the turmoil churning inside me. Just 4 words. I need you. Thalindra, not Sarah. Not the false identity I'd hidden behind. My real name. Because if I was going to do this, if I was going to fight instead of surrender, I needed to stop hiding from who I was. I opened the door to find Elowen standing there, her copper hair wind-blown, her green eyes wide with concern. She was breathing hard, like she'd run the entire way from wherever my message had found her. Thali? She took one look at my face, and her expression crumbled. Oh, gods, what happened? I couldn't speak. My throat had closed completely, so I just stepped aside and let her in. Ellawen swept into the small room, her sharp gaze taking in everything. The unmade bed, my red-rimmed eyes, the way I was holding myself together with visible effort. She turned back to me, and I saw the exact moment she realized how bad things were. "Sit," she commanded gently, guiding me to the bed. "And tell me everything." So I did. The words came in broken fragments at first, then in a rush. I told her about the border meeting, about Kavreith recognizing me and Zephran, about the way my son had screamed for me as the warriors carried him away, about the 3-day ultimatum, return to Mountain Shadowpack, or lose Zephran forever. I told her about going to Dravon for help, for forgiveness, for anything. And I told her what I'd found instead. "He was drunk," I whispered, my voice breaking. "With her. This woman, Lysandra, his ex-mate. And there were bottles everywhere, and they were—" I couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't force the image out into words. "Oh, Thali." Ellawen pulled me into a fierce hug. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "She kicked me out this morning," I continued against her shoulder. "Told me Dravon didn't want to see me, that I was filthy and manipulative and—" my voice cracked completely. "She had his warriors throw me off pack territory. I don't even have Zephran's clothes, his toys. Nothing." Ellawen's arms tightened around me. For a long moment we just sat there, her holding me while I tried not to fall apart completely. Finally, she pulled back, her hands on my shoulders, her eyes fierce. "All right, let's think this through logically. You have 3 days to figure out how to get Zephran back. What's your plan?" "I don't have one," I admitted. "I just know I can't go back to Kavreith. I can't return to that pack, to that life. I'd rather—" I stopped, unable to finish the thought. "Rather what? Die?" Ellawen's voice was sharp. "Leave Zephran to be raised by the man who drove you away. Give up." "I'm not giving up." The words burst out of me, hot and defensive. I don't know what to do, Ellawen. Every option leads to losing something. If I go back to Kavreith, I lose myself. If I don't, I lose my son. There's no winning here." "Then we make a third option," Ellawen said firmly. "We find a way to get Zephran back, without you having to surrender to Kavreith." "How? Pack law is absolute. The heir belongs with the Alpha. Unless another Alpha challenges that right." Ellawen's eyes were bright with calculation. "Unless you have someone powerful enough to stand up to Kavreith. Someone who—" She stopped, studying my face. "Thali, do you have feelings for Dravon?" The question hit me like a wave. "What?" "No, I mean," I faltered, unable to meet her eyes. "It doesn't matter. He made his choice very clear." "That's not what I asked." Ellawen's voice was gentle but insistent. "I asked if you have feelings for him. Real feelings. Not gratitude or attraction or convenience. Love." I opened my mouth to deny it, to say something dismissive and self-protective. But the lie wouldn't come. "Yes," I whispered finally. "Yes. I fell in love with him. Despite knowing it was stupid and dangerous and would probably end badly, I fell in love with how patient he was, how kind, how he looked at Zephran like he was precious, how he made me feel." My voice broke. "How he made me feel like I mattered, like I was worth something beyond my womb or my title." "Then why are you giving up on him?" Ellawen demanded. "Why are you accepting that he's with Lysandra? That he doesn't want to see you?" "Because I saw them together." The words came out sharper than intended. "I saw what they were doing, and this morning she told me." "She told you what Dravon supposedly thinks," Ellawen interrupted. "Did you actually hear it from him? Did he look you in the eye and say he doesn't want to see you?" "He was too drunk to—" "Exactly. Too drunk, drowning in alcohol because you shattered something inside him." Ellawen's expression softened. "Thali, think about it. What if Drevon was going through something really hard before you came along? What if he'd been hurt badly, maybe by this Lysandra woman, and when he met you, he thought he'd finally found home? Finally found someone he could trust? Then I destroyed that, I said bitterly, by lying to him, by being exactly what he was afraid of. Maybe. Or maybe he's hurt and confused, and making terrible decisions because his world just fell apart. Elowen gripped my hands tightly. You said Lysandra is his ex-mate. What if seeing you, someone he loved, someone he trusted, turn out to be hiding the truth broke him babbly? What if he crawled into a bottle and into her bed because he was trying to feel anything other than devastated? I wanted to argue. Wanted to insist that it didn't matter why he'd done it, only that he had. But a small, treacherous part of me whispered, what if she's right? Even if that's true, I said slowly, he still doesn't want to see me. Lysandra made that very clear. Lysandra wants you gone, Elowen countered. Of course she's going to tell you Drevon doesn't want to see you. She probably saw you as a threat and seized the opportunity to get you out of the picture permanently. She leaned forward, her expression intense. But here's what you need to understand, Thali. You need Drevon's help. I can't ask him for anything, not after, listen to me. Elowen's voice dropped, becoming deadly serious. You know pack law. You were Luna for 8 years. You know what happens if you try to take Zephran from Mountain Shadow Pack without Kavreith's permission. Ice flooded my veins. I'll challenge it. Appeal to the High Council. The High Council won't convene in 3 days. And the moment those 3 days are up, Kavreith invokes Alpha's right of succession. Zephran becomes a full, legal member of Mountain Shadow Pack. And if you try to take him, if you step one foot onto that territory with the intent to remove an Alpha's acknowledged heir, she paused, making sure I was listening. Pack law gives Kavreith the right to execute you, publicly, in front of the entire pack. He wouldn't, but even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true. Kavreith might not want to kill me, but he'd be bound by pack law. And pack law was absolute. He would have no choice, Elowen said quietly. The elders would demand it. The pack would expect it. An outsider trying to steal the Alpha's heir? That's a death sentence, Thali. You know that. I did know that. Had seen it happen once, years ago, when a rogue she-wolf had tried to claim another pack's pup as her own. The execution had been swift and brutal and entirely legal. So what do? I whispered. Just accept that I've lost him? That Kavreith wins? No, you go to Drevon. Elowen's grip on my hands tightened. You apologize. You explain everything, the truth this time, all of it. And you ask for his help, because an Alpha challenging another Alpha's claim? That's legal. That's recognized by pack law. If Drevon stands with you, if he's willing to dispute Kavreith's right to Zephran, Kavreith would never agree to that. It could start a war between the packs. Maybe, or maybe Kavreith would back down rather than risk open conflict. Elowen's eyes were fierce, but you won't know unless you try. Unless you swallow your pride and go to Drevon and ask for help. He won't help me, not after what I did. You won't know that until you ask. Elowen stood, pulling me up with her. Come on, we're going to the pack house. Elowen, no. Yes, her voice was firm, brooking no argument. You're going to face him. You're going to apologize. And you're going to fight for your son. Because the Thalindra I know, the Luna who survived 8 years of judgment, who escaped an abusive situation, who raised a child alone in enemy territory, that woman doesn't give up. She was right. I knew she was right. But the thought of seeing Drevon again, of facing his anger and disgust and rejection. I'm scared, I admitted quietly. Good. Fear means you still care. Fear means there's something worth fighting for. Elowen squeezed my hands one more time. Now get changed. Make yourself presentable. And let's go get your Alpha. He's not my Alpha, I protested weakly. Elowen just smiled. We'll see about that. 20 minutes later, we were walking through Dead Moon territory toward the pack house. I'd changed into the only decent dress I owned. Simple, modest. Nothing like the elegant clothes I'd worn as Dravon's steward. My hair was braided severely, my face scrubbed clean. I looked like exactly what I was, a desperate woman with nothing left to lose. The pack members we passed gave us curious looks, but didn't stop us. News of my expulsion must not have spread beyond the pack house yet, or maybe they just didn't care. Either way, no one challenged us as we approached the massive stone building. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. Every step felt like walking toward my own execution. But Elowen was beside me, steady and sure, and somehow that made it bearable. We reached the main entrance just as the doors opened, and Dravon walked out. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, hair disheveled, clothing rumpled like he'd slept in them, if he'd slept at all. But when his storm gray eyes landed on me, they weren't tired anymore. They were furious. Pure, incandescent rage burned in his gaze. His whole body went rigid, his hands clenching into fists at his sides. For a moment I thought he might shift right there, let his wolf tear me apart for daring to show my face. "Dravon," I started, my voice small. "No." The single word cracked like a whip. "You don't get to speak to me. You don't get to come here. You don't." His voice broke slightly, and I saw him struggling for control. "You don't exist to me anymore." "Please," I begged, taking a step forward. "Please, just let me explain." "Explain what? More lies?" He laughed, sharp and bitter. "How stupid do you think I am, Thalindra? Or should I call you Sarah? Or maybe you have another name I don't know about? Another identity you've been hiding?" "I know I lied to you," I said desperately. "I know I broke your trust. But if you'd just listen..." "I'm done listening to you." He moved past me, his shoulder deliberately knocking into mine hard enough to make me stumble. "Stay away from me. Stay away from my pack. And if I see you on my territory again..." He stopped, his voice dropping to something deadly. "I'll have you arrested for trespassing." He was walking away. Actually walking away without even giving me a chance to speak. "Dravon, please," I called after him. "I need your help. Kavreith is going to..." "I don't care what Kavreith does." Dravon didn't even turn around. "That's between you and your mate. Nothing to do with me. He's going to take my son." The words burst out of me, raw and desperate. "In 3 days, I lose Zephran forever, and if I try to stop it, pack law says Kavreith can execute me. Please, you're the only one who..." Dravon stopped. For a moment I thought he might turn around. Might actually listen. Then he climbed into a sleek black car waiting at the curb, slammed the door, and drove away without looking back. I stood there, frozen, watching his car disappear down the road, feeling like I'd just been gutted. "Well?" Elowen's voice was carefully neutral. That went about as well as expected. "He hates me," I whispered. "He's hurt. There's a difference." "Elowen, leaving so soon?" The voice made both of us turn. Lysandra was standing in the pack house doorway, that same smug smile on her face. She was dressed impeccably again, every hair in place, looking like she'd stepped out of a portrait. "You were told to leave pack territory," Lysandra continued, descending the steps with predatory grace. "Yet here you are, harassing the Alpha, causing more problems." She shook her head, mock sympathy dripping from every word. "Some women just don't know when they're not wanted." "And some women," Elowen said pleasantly, stepping forward, "need to learn to mind their own business." Lysandra's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "I'm her best friend, which means I know exactly what kind of manipulative bitch you are." Elowen's smile was sharp. "Tell me, Lysandra, how does it feel being Dravon's second choice? His fallback option when the woman he actually loves isn't available? You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Elowen's voice was sweet as poison. Because from where I'm standing, you're the ex he left behind, the woman he moved on from. And the only reason you're back in his bed is because you took advantage of him when he was drunk and vulnerable. Lysandra's face flushed with anger. How dare you? I dare, because unlike you, I actually care about the people involved. Elowen took another step forward. Now, I'm going to give you one chance to walk away. To go back inside and pretend this conversation never happened. Or what? Lysandra laughed. Elowen's fist connected with Lysandra's perfect nose with a sickening crunch. Lysandra went down hard, blood streaming from her face, her hands flying up to cover her nose. She made a sound, something between a shriek and a sob, and stumbled backward. You bitch! Lysandra screamed, her voice muffled by her hands. You broke my nose! I'll have you arrested! You'll do nothing, Elowen said calmly, shaking out her hand. Because if you make a formal complaint, I'll tell everyone. Exactly how you manipulated a drunk alpha into your bed. How you took advantage of his emotional state. How you deliberately sabotaged his relationship with Thalindra. She smiled, cold and dangerous. Wonder what the pack would think of that. Lysandra just stared at her, blood dripping through her fingers, her eyes wide with shock and rage. Come on, Thali, Elowen said, turning away. We're done here. I followed her in a daze, still trying to process what had just happened. Behind us, I could hear Lysandra screaming for help, her voice shrill and furious. We were halfway back to the boarding house before I found my voice. You punched her. I did. Elowen sounded completely unrepentant. You punched Dravon's ex-mate in the face. Yes, and it was incredibly satisfying. She glanced at me. You're welcome, by the way. Despite everything, despite the devastation and fear and hopelessness, I felt a laugh bubble up in my chest. Sharp and slightly hysterical, but genuine. Thank you, I said. Anytime. She deserved it. Elowen's expression softened. I'm sorry about Dravon. I really thought, it's fine. I cut her off before she could finish, because it wasn't fine, not even close, but I couldn't afford to think about that right now. You were right that I had to try. At least now I know. Know what? That I'm on my own. That there's no cavalry coming. That if I want Zephran back... I took a deep breath, feeling something hard and cold settle in my chest. I'm going to have to do something drastic. Elowen grabbed my arm, stopping me. Thali, whatever you're thinking, I have to go to Mountain Shadow Pack, I said quietly. Not to accept Kavreith's terms, but to find another way. There has to be a loophole, some exception in pack law, something, and if there isn't... I met her eyes. Then I'll make one. We reached the boarding house and climbed the stairs to my room. I was already mentally cataloging what I'd need. Supplies, weapons, a plan that didn't involve getting my head cut off, when Elowen stopped dead in the hallway. Thali, she said quietly, someone's been here. My door was ajar. Just slightly, but I knew I'd locked it when we left. My wolf rose instantly, sensing danger. I motioned for Elowen to stay back and pushed the door open slowly. A woman was sitting on my bed. Long black hair, pale skin, a sly smile that I'd know anywhere, that had haunted my nightmares for 3 years. Azrienne. My sister looked exactly the same, beautiful and cruel, and utterly unconcerned that she'd broken into my home. She crossed her legs elegantly, like she was holding court in a throne room instead of trespassing in a shabby boarding house. Hello, sister, she purred. We need to talk. Chapter 4. The silence in my small room was deafening. Azrienne sat on my bed like she owned it, her sly smile never wavering. Elowen stood rigid beside me, her fists clenched, her whole body radiating hostility. And I was frozen, staring at the woman who'd helped destroy my life, trying to understand why she was here. Get out. Elowen's voice was cold as winter ice. Now, before I throw you out. Azrienne laughed, light and airy, like Elowen had told a joke, So hostile. Is that any way to greet family? You're not family, Elowen spat. You're a parasite, a manipulative, selfish... Elowen. I put a hand on her arm, stopping her. Let's hear what she has to say. Thali, no. Elowen turned to me, her green eyes blazing. Nothing good comes from this woman. Nothing. She slept with your mate in your bed. She's the reason you ran. The reason you've been hiding for 3 years. And now she just shows up here, and you want to listen to her? I want to know why she's here, I said quietly. How did you find me, Azrienne? My sister's smile widened. She stood gracefully, smoothing her expensive dress, silk. I have a way of getting whatever I desire, dear sister. Information, locations, people. Her eyes glittered. Especially when I'm motivated. That's not an answer, Elowen growled. It's the only answer you're getting. Azrienne's gaze shifted to me, assessing. You look terrible, Thalindra. 3 years away from pack life hasn't been kind to you. What do you want? I asked, ignoring the barb. I didn't have the energy for her games. Straight to business. I like that. Azrienne circled the small room, her fingers trailing over my few possessions with distaste. I have a proposition for you. We don't want anything from you, Elowen said firmly. Thali, tell her to leave. She's bad news. Whatever she's offering, it's poison. Elowen's right, I agreed, but I didn't take my eyes off Azrienne. You should go. Not until you hear me out. Azrienne turned to face me fully. It's about your son. My heart stopped. What about Zephran? Kavreith brought him back to Mountain Shadow Pack, Azrienne said casually, like she was discussing the weather. The boy is adjusting. Barely. He cries. For you constantly. Kavreith is at his wit's end trying to calm him down. Pain lanced through my chest, sharp and devastating. Zephran was crying for me. My baby was scared and alone and calling for his mama, and I wasn't there. You came here to gloat, Elowen demanded. To rub it in her face that Kavreith took her son? I came here to make a deal. Azrienne's expression became serious. I'm in a relationship with Kavreith now, a beautiful, stable relationship, and I don't want anything, or anyone, coming between us. The words hit me hard. You're with him? Officially? We've been together since you left. Azrienne examined her perfectly manicured nails. He was devastated when you disappeared. Broken. And I was there to pick up the pieces. To comfort him. To give him what you never could. You manipulative bitch, Elowen lunged forward, but I caught her arm. Let her talk, I said, my voice hollow. Thank you. Azrienne smiled at me, warm and false. Here's the situation. Thalindra. Kavreith is obsessed with bringing you back. Not because he loves you, gods no. But because of pack law, because of duty, because the elders are pressuring him to reunite his family. She paused. It's exhausting, and it's threatening my position. Your position as what? I asked. You're not Luna. You can't be. You rejected him as your fated mate. Pack law won't recognize you as... Pack law can be flexible when an alpha is determined enough. Azrienne's smile turned sharp. But that's not the point. The point is, I want you gone, permanently. Out of Kavreith's life. Out of the pack's consciousness. Out of the picture, entirely. Then you should be thrilled, Elowen said bitterly. She's already gone. Already exiled herself. What more do you want? I want insurance. Azrienne's eyes locked onto mine. I want a guarantee that you'll never return to Mountain Shadow Pack. That you'll never speak to Kavreith again. That you'll disappear so completely that even the pack's memory of you fades. And in exchange? I asked, though I already knew. Already felt the trap closing around me. In exchange, I'll return your son to you. The room went utterly silent. Elowen broke it first. You're lying? You don't have the authority to. I have more authority than you think, Azrian interrupted smoothly. Kavreith trusts me, listens to me, and I can convince him that returning the boy to you is the right choice. That forcing you back to the pack will only breed resentment. That letting you go, really letting you go, is what's best for everyone. Don't trust her, Elowen said urgently, gripping my shoulder. Thali, this is the woman who spread her legs for your husband without a second thought, who betrayed you in the cruelest way possible. She doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit her. This is a trap. Maybe, I said quietly. But if there's even a chance she's telling the truth— There isn't, Elowen's voice rose. Can't you see what she's doing? She wants you to agree to never return so she can have Kavreith all to herself, so she can play Luna without you threatening her position. She doesn't care about you or Zephran. She cares about herself. You're absolutely right, Azrian said pleasantly. I do care about myself, and my relationship with Kavreith, but that doesn't make my offer any less real. She turned to me. Think about it, Thalindra. What do you care about more? Your pride? Or your son? That's not fair, Elowen started. Life isn't fair, Azrian cut her off. But this is the offer. I'll convince Kavreith to return Zephran to you. You'll get your child back, safe and whole. And in exchange, you disappear. You never contact Kavreith. You never return to Mountain Shadowpack. You let me have the life you abandoned. I stared at her, my mind racing. This was exactly what Elowen said. Manipulation. A trap. Azrian playing on my desperation to get what she wanted, but she was also offering me Zephran, my baby, my whole world. The child I'd been willing to die for just days ago. I don't care about Kavreith, I heard myself say. I don't want him. Don't want anything to do with Mountain Shadowpack. If you can actually get Zephran back to me, if you can really make that happen, then yes. I agree. Thali, no! Elowen grabbed both my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. Think about what you're doing. This woman destroyed you once. She'll do it again. Whatever she's planning, it's not going to end with you happily reunited with your son. It's going to end with you losing everything. I've already lost everything, I said quietly. My mate, my pack, my home, Dravon. The only thing I have left is Zephran. And if there's even the slightest chance I can get him back, by trusting the woman who fucked your husband, Elowen's voice cracked. Thali, please, I'm begging you, don't do this. I pulled away from her gently, turned back to Azrian. What are your terms? Azriana's smile was triumphant. Simple. I need 1 month. 1 month? I stared at her. Why? If you have the authority to return him, why do you need— Because I need to be certain you'll keep your word, Azrian said smoothly. 1 month of you staying away. 1 month of no contact with Kavreith or anyone from Mountain Shadowpack. 1 month to prove you're serious about this agreement. After that, I'll return Zephran to you. A month is too long, I protested. He's 3 years old. He's terrified. Every day away from me is— 1 month or no deal. Azrian's voice was firm. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell her to go to hell. Wanted to find another way. Any other way. To get my son back. But there was no other way. Dravon had rejected me. Pack law would kill me if I tried to take Zephran by force. And in 3 days— No, it had already been a day. In 2 days, Kavreith would invoke Alpha's right, and I'd lose all legal claim to my son forever. Fine, I whispered. 1 month, and then you return Zephran to me. Here, to this exact location. Agreed. Azrian extended her hand. Do we have a deal, sister? I stared at her hand like it was a viper. Behind me, I heard Elowen make a sound of disgust and despair. But I reached out anyway, shook my sister's hand, sealed my fate. 1 month, I said. Don't make me regret this. Azrian's smile was cold and victorious. I wouldn't dream of it." She swept out of the room without another word, leaving the scent of expensive perfume and impending disaster in her wake. The moment the door closed, Elowyn exploded. "What the hell were you thinking? You just made a deal with the devil." "I know," I said numbly. "She's not going to return Zephran. She's going to use this month to solidify her position with Kavreith, and then she's going to— I know!" The words burst out of me, sharp and desperate. "You think I don't know that? You think I trust her? I don't. But what choice do I have, Elowyn? Tell me, what other option is there?" Elowyn stared at me, her expression crumbling. "I don't know," she whispered finally. "I don't know, Thali. But this feels wrong. Everything about this feels wrong." "Everything in my life feels wrong," I said bitterly. "At least this way there's a chance. A small, probably doomed chance. But it's more than I had an hour ago." Elowyn pulled me into a fierce hug. "If she betrays you, when she betrays you, I'm going to kill her. Slowly, painfully, in ways that violate at least 6-pack laws." Despite everything, I felt a weak smile pull at my lips. "I'll help you hide the body. Deal." We stood there in my small, shabby room, holding each other while the weight of what I'd just agreed to settled over us like a shroud. 1 month, 30 days to wait and hope and pray that my sister, the woman who'd destroyed my marriage, would actually keep her word. It was the longest shot in history, but it was all I had. The month that followed was the longest of my life. Every day felt like a year. Every hour dragged by with agonizing slowness. I worked at the Crimson Moon, served drinks with a smile plastered on my face, and pretended everything was fine, while my heart was being ripped apart by Zephran's absence. Madame Kestra and the working girls asked about him constantly at first. "When is your boy coming back, Sarah?" "Soon," I'd say, every single time. "Soon." After the second week, they stopped asking. Maybe they sensed I was barely holding it together. Maybe they just didn't care anymore. Either way, the questions dried up, and I was grateful. Elowyn visited when she could, bringing supplies and moral support, and increasingly creative threats about what she'd do to Azrian if this turned out to be a trick. 23 more days, she'd say, and if that bitch doesn't show up with Zephran, I'm going to— "I know," I'd interrupt. "Creative dismemberment. You've mentioned it. Just making sure you remember." I remembered everything. Every promise Azrian had made. Every word of our agreement. Every second that ticked by while my son was God's knew where, possibly scared, possibly crying for me, possibly thinking I'd abandoned him. The nights were the worst. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Zephran over and over. His laugh, his smile. The way he'd wrap his small arms around my neck and say, "Love you, Mama." I'd cry myself to sleep most nights, wake up with swollen eyes and a hollow chest and somehow force myself to keep going. Because what else could I do? 29 days. 28 days. 27 days. The calendar on my wall marked each passing day with brutal efficiency. Each X I drew felt like a small death, like watching my hope drain away one sunrise at a time. And then, finally, mercifully, it was the last day. Day 30. I'd asked Madame Kestra if I could leave work early. She'd agreed without question, probably seeing the manic hope in my eyes and not wanting to be responsible for my inevitable breakdown. I rushed home, my heart pounding, my hands shaking. Elowyn was already there, pacing my small room like a caged wolf. "Anything?" I asked breathlessly. "Nothing yet." She checked the window for the 100th time. "But it's still early. She said she'd come today, right? She didn't specify a time?" "No." I joined her at the window, scanning the street below. "Just said 1 month. Today is 1 month exactly. Then she'll come." Elowyn didn't sound convinced. She has to come. The hours crawled by. Afternoon bled into evening, evening into dusk, and still no sign of Azrienne. Maybe she's just late, I said, hearing the desperation in my own voice. Maybe there was obstacles, or she had to wait for the right moment to— A knock at the door cut me off. We both froze, stared at each other. Then I was moving, practically running across the small room, my hands fumbling with the lock. This was it. Azrienne had kept her word. Zephran was on the other side of this door. My baby. My son. Finally coming home. I yanked the door open, a smile already forming on my lips. And found Dravon. Not Azrienne. Not Zephran. Dravon. He looked terrible. Worse than terrible. He was lean, like he'd lost significant weight. His clothes hung on him wrong, rumpled and stained. His hair was unkempt, falling into eyes that were bloodshot and rimmed with dark circles. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks, like he'd been through hell and barely crawled out alive, and he was on his knees. Actually on his knees on the dirty hallway floor, staring up at me with an expression so devastated it made my heart stutter. "Dravon," I whispered. "What are you—" "I can't do it." His voice was raw, broken. "I tried. Gods, I tried so hard. I thought if I gave it time, if I pushed you away hard enough, if I convinced myself you meant nothing." He choked on the words. "But I can't. I can't live without you, Thalindra. I can't breathe, can't think, can't function. Everything is wrong without you." "Dravon." I reached for him, but he caught my hands, holding them tightly. "I hate myself," he continued, words spilling out like he'd been holding them in for too long. "I hate that I wasn't the first man in your life. That Kavreith got to you first. That he had you for 8 years while I only got 8 months. I hate that he gave you a child. That he has a claim to you I'll never have. I hate all of it." Tears were streaming down my face. "Then why are you here?" "Because I hate myself even more for not giving you a chance to explain." His grip on my hands tightened. "For pushing you away when you needed me. For being so caught up in my own pain that I couldn't see yours. For not—" His voice broke completely. "For not being strong enough to see past my own betrayal and understand why you lied." "You had every right to be angry," I said, my voice shaking. "I did lie to you. For months. I let you fall in love with someone who didn't exist. No." He shook his head fiercely. "You let me fall in love with you. The real you. The woman who loved her son enough to give up everything for him. The woman who was brave enough to start over. The woman who—" He looked up at me, his storm-gray eyes swimming with tears. "The woman I still love. Despite everything. Despite the lies and the pain and the impossibility of it all. I love you, Thalindra. And I need you to give me another chance." I was crying openly now, my whole body shaking. "Dravon, I need to ask you something. And I need the truth. Anything. Why did you sleep with her?" The question came out broken. "Why Lysandra? Why that night?" Pain flashed across his face. "I was drunk. More drunk than I've ever been in my life. I was trying to not feel anything. To obliterate the pain of finding out you'd lied. That everything I thought we had was built on deception." He closed his eyes. "I don't even remember deciding to call her. Don't remember her arriving. I just remember seeing your face, reaching for you, trying to hold on to the one good thing in my miserable existence." "But it wasn't me," I whispered. "I thought it was." He opened his eyes, and the anguish in them nearly broke me. "In my drunken, devastated state, I thought you'd come back. That you were giving me another chance. It wasn't until I woke up the next morning that I realized—" He shuddered. "That I realized it was Lysandra, my ex-mate, the woman who lied to me before, the woman who broke me so badly I thought I'd never trust anyone again." "What did she lie about?" I asked quietly. "She told me she loved me while fucking my beta behind my back for 6 months." The words were flat, emotionless. She told me we were fated mates while planning to leave me for a wealthier alpha. She told me 1,000 small lies that added up to one massive betrayal, and when I found out, when I confronted her, she didn't even apologize. Just said she'd done what she had to do to secure her future. My chest ached. Dravon. So when I found out you'd been lying too, that you'd hidden who you really were, that you had a mate you'd never mentioned, that everything about your identity was false. He took a shuddering breath. All those old wounds just opened, and I couldn't see past them. Couldn't see that your lies were different, that you'd lied to survive, not to manipulate, that you'd been trying to protect yourself and your son, not trying to hurt me. I'm so sorry, I said, sinking to my knees in front of him. I'm so sorry. I should have told you the truth. Should have trusted you. Should have... We both made mistakes, he interrupted gently. But I'm done making them. I'm done pushing you away. I'm done pretending I can live without you. He cupped my face in his hands, his touch gentle, despite the trembling in his fingers. I love you, Thalindra. I love you so much it terrifies me. And I'm asking, begging, for you to give me another chance. To let me prove that I can be the man you deserve. The man who stands by you instead of running when things get hard. I love you too, I whispered. I never stopped. Even when I thought I should. Even when it hurt too much to hope. I love you. He pulled me into his arms then, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. And I didn't care. I wrapped my arms around him and held on, like he was the only solid thing in a world that kept shifting beneath my feet. I forgive you, I said against his shoulder, for everything, for pushing me away, for not listening, for sleeping with Lysandra, he finished, his voice tight. Even that. I pulled back to look at him, because I understand. I understand what it's like to be so broken, you'll do anything, to make the pain stop, even if it means making terrible choices. I chased her out of the pack, he said. The moment I sobered up enough to think, clearly, threw her belongings out the front door, and told her if she ever set foot in Dead Moon territory again, I'd have her arrested for trespassing. Good, I said fiercely. She deserved worse. He laughed, weak and watery, but genuine. I missed you. Gods, I missed you so much. I missed you too. He kissed me. Soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid I might pull away. But when I didn't, when I kissed him back with all the desperation and relief and love flooding through me, it deepened. Became passionate and desperate and full of promises we were both afraid to speak out loud. Then he whispered against my lips, "Where's Zephran?" The question was like a knife to the chest. All the joy, all the relief, all the hope. It drained away instantly, replaced by the cold reality I'd been trying to forget for the past hour. He's not here, I whispered. Dravon pulled back, his eyes searching mine. What do you mean he's not here? I thought, didn't you... It's complicated. Thalindra. His voice was gentle, but firm. Where is your son? Before I could answer, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Light, deliberate, unhurried. Dravon's entire body went rigid. His head snapped toward the sound, his wolf rising instantly to the surface. No, he breathed. No, she wouldn't. Lysandra appeared in the doorway. She looked immaculate as always. Expensive dress, perfect hair, a smile that made my skin crawl, and her hand was resting on her stomach in a gesture that was deliberately, unmistakably maternal. Dravon, darling, she purred. We need to talk. Get out. Dravon was on his feet instantly, putting himself between Lysandra and me. I told you to leave Dead Moon territory. I told you, I know what you told me. Lysandra's voice was calm, almost amused. But I've been following you, keeping an eye on you, making sure you were all right after our night together. We didn't have a night together, Dravon snarled. I was drunk and you took advantage. That's not how I remember it. She smiled, cold and cruel. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I have news. Good news, actually. News that changes everything. I don't care. I'm pregnant. The words dropped into the hallway like a bomb. Silence. Complete, devastating silence. I watched Dravon's face drain of all color. Watched his hands clench into fists. Watched his whole world shatter for the second time in a month. You're lying, he said, but his voice was hollow. I'm not. Lysandra's smile widened. 3 weeks pregnant. Conceived on that wonderful night we spent together. You're going to be a father, Dravon. Congratulations. Chapter 5. The word hung in the air like poison. Pregnant. I watched Dravon's face cycle through emotions too quickly to name. Shock, denial, horror, rage, and finally, devastating acceptance. His hands were still clenched at his sides, his whole body radiating tension. You're lying, he said again, but his voice had lost its conviction. Lysandra's smile was serene, almost beatific. She pulled a folded piece of parchment from her dress and held it out. Doctor's confirmation. From the most respected healer in Dead Moon territory. 3 weeks pregnant. Would you like to verify it yourself? Draven didn't take the parchment. Didn't move at all. He looked like he'd been turned to stone. I felt my heart shattering all over again. Just moments ago, we'd been in each other's arms. He'd been apologizing, confessing his love, begging for another chance. And now there was a child. His child. With the woman who'd betrayed him before. This changes nothing, Dravon said, but his voice was hollow. You and I are not together. We'll never be together. If that child is mine, and I want proof, Lysandra, because I don't trust a single word that comes out of your mouth, then I'll support it financially. But that's all. Support it financially. Lysandra's eyes flashed. That's your heir, Dravon. Your blood. Your legacy. And you're going to reduce it to a monthly payment? What do you want from me? Dravon's control was fraying. I could see it in the way his hands trembled, the way his jaw clenched. You want me to mate you? Marry you? Pretend the past doesn't exist? I want you to do what's right. Lysandra placed both hands on her stomach in a gesture that was deliberately, painfully maternal. I want you to acknowledge your child, to give it a proper home, a proper family. With you as Luna? I heard myself ask, my voice sharp. Lysandra's gaze shifted to me, and her smile turned cruel. Well, someone has to be. And you're rather occupied with your own mate, aren't you? The one who's holding your actual son hostage? The barb hit its mark. I flinched, and Lysandra's smile widened. Get out, Dravon said, his voice dropping into alpha command. Now, before I have you forcibly removed. I'm carrying your child, Lysandra protested. You can't just... I can do whatever. I want... You're trespassing. You were exiled from my territory. The only reason I'm not having you arrested right now is because... He stopped, his jaw working. Just go. We'll discuss this later. After I've had time to think. You have 1 week, Lysandra said, straightening. 1 week to decide how you're going to handle this. Because if you don't acknowledge this child, if you don't do right by me, her smile turned vicious. I'll make sure every pack from here to the Eastern Territories knows that Alpha Dravon Shadowmere abandoned his pregnant mate. Wonder what that will do to your reputation. She swept out before Dravon could respond, leaving the scent of her perfume and the weight of her words hanging in the air. The moment she was gone, Dravon's legs seemed to give out. He sagged against the doorframe, one hand pressed to his face. Dravon, I reached for him. Don't. He held up his other hand, stopping me. Please, I need a minute. Behind me, I heard Elowin moving quietly toward the door. I'm going to give you two some privacy, she said gently. Thali, I'll be downstairs if you need me. I nodded, unable to take my eyes off Dravon. He looked broken. Utterly, completely broken. The door closed softly behind Elowin. I don't know if it's mine, Dravon said finally, his voice muffled by his hand. That night, I barely remember it. I was so drunk, Thalindra. So devastated. And she. He lowered his hand, and I saw tears tracking down his face. She could be lying. This could be someone else's child. But what if it's not? What if I really did? Then we deal with it, I said quietly. He laughed, bitter and broken. We? There is no we, Thalindra. You have your own nightmare to navigate. Kavreith. Your son. Pack law. You don't need to take on my mistakes, too. Maybe I want to. I moved closer, ignoring the way he tensed. Maybe I'm tired of navigating nightmares alone. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. I took his hand, lacing our fingers together. I love you, Dravon. That doesn't change because Lysandra's pregnant. That doesn't change because the situation is complicated and messy and possibly doomed. Where is your son? Did he actually take him? He asked quietly. The reminder was like ice water down my spine. Zephran. Gods in the chaos of Dravon's arrival and Lysandra's bombshell. I'd almost forgotten that Azrienne was meant to be here by now. Almost. I pulled away from Dravon and moved to the window, scanning the darkening street below. Still no sign of Azrienne. No sign of my baby. My sister promised to bring him. She said 1 month, I whispered. Today is 1 month exactly. She should be here. And if she doesn't come, Dravon asked gently, then I'll find her. My hands clenched on the windowsill. I'll hunt her down, and I'll make her regret ever making that deal. Thalindra? A knock at the door cut him off. We both froze, stared at each other. Then I was moving, crossing the room in 3 strides, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. This was it. This had to be it. Azrienne had finally come, finally brought my baby home. I yanked the door open. Alawan stood there, her face pale, her eyes wide with something that looked like horror. Thali, she said, her voice shaking. There's someone here to see you, downstairs. You need to come now. Is it Azrienne? I demanded. Is Zephran? Just come. She grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the stairs. Please, you need to see this yourself. Dravon was behind us instantly, his hand on my shoulder, his presence solid and reassuring, even as my world tilted sideways. We descended the stairs quickly, my feet barely touching the steps. The boarding house common room was usually empty at this hour, but tonight it was crowded. Mirette was there, several other boarders, and standing in the center of them all, Azrienne. She was alone, no guards, no entourage, just her, in a traveling cloak stained with mud and gods knew what else. Her perfect hair was disheveled, her face was scratched, like she'd been running through brambles, and in her arms, wrapped in a bundle of stained cloth, my heart stopped. Sister, Azrienne said, her voice flat, emotionless. I've kept my end of the bargain. I couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't do anything except stare at that bundle in her arms. It was too small, too still, too silent. Where is he? I managed to choke out. Where's Zephran? Right here. Azrienne shifted the bundle slightly. As promised, 1 month, and I've returned your son. Something was wrong. Something was horribly, devastatingly wrong. I could feel it in my bones in the way Elowen's hand tightened on mine, in the way the room had gone deathly silent. Let me see him, I said, taking a step forward. Let me... Azrienne moved toward me, her steps slow and deliberate. The bundle in her arms didn't move, didn't make a sound. Pups made sounds. Even sleeping pups shifted, breathed, made small noises. This bundle was completely, utterly still. No, I whispered. No, please. Azrienne stopped in front of me, and with movements that were almost gentle, almost tender, she pulled back the cloth. My son's face stared up at me. Perfect. peaceful, beautiful, and completely irrevocably lifeless. His skin was pale, too pale, waxy. His lips were tinged with blue. His eyes were closed, long lashes resting against cheeks that would never flush with life again. His small chest didn't rise or fall. He looked like he was sleeping. But I knew, gods, I knew, that he would never wake up. A sound tore from my throat. Something inhuman. Something that came from a place so deep inside me, I didn't know it existed until this moment. No. I reached for him with shaking hands. No, 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 no. Azrian placed him in my arms. He was cold. So cold. Stiff in a way that living things should never be. And he smelled wrong. Not like my son. Not like innocence and everything good in the world. He smelled like death. "What did you do?" I heard myself ask, the words coming from very far away. "What did you do?" "I kept my end of the bargain," Azrian said, her voice still flat, still emotionless. "The deal was to return your son. You never specified that he needed to be alive." The room erupted. Elowen lunged for Azrian with a scream of rage. Dravon caught her, holding her back even as she fought him. Mirette was shouting something. Other boarders were backing away, their faces horrified. But I couldn't hear any of it. Couldn't process anything except the weight in my arms. The terrible, devastating weight of my dead child. "You killed him," I whispered. "You killed my baby." "I did what I had to do," Azrian said, "to secure my position, to make sure you'd never come back. You killed him!" The scream tore from my throat, raw and primal. "He was 3 years old! He was innocent! He was—" My wolf surged, forward, shattering the fragile control I'd been clinging to. I felt my bones breaking, reforming, my body shifting into something designed to kill, to tear, to destroy. I laid Zephran down gently, so gently, because even in my rage, I couldn't bear to hurt him more than he'd already been hurt, and then I launched myself at my sister. I hit her with the full force of my shifted weight, driving her backward into the wall. She shifted too, faster than I expected, her own wolf meeting mine with claws and teeth. We crashed through the common room, destroying furniture, our snarls filling the air. I felt her claws rake across my side, felt blood welling hot and wet. But I didn't care. Didn't feel it. All I felt was rage. Rage and grief and a need to make her suffer the way she'd made my baby suffer. I got my jaws around her throat and bit down, tasting blood, feeling her wolf's pulse hammering frantically beneath my teeth. Just a little more pressure and I could end this. Could kill the woman who'd murdered my son. But before I could finish it, something slammed into me from the side. Multiple somethings. I was torn away from Azrian and thrown across the room, crashed into the far wall hard enough to crack the plaster. When I scrambled to my feet, I saw them. 6 wolves in mountain shadow colors. Guards. Azrian's escort, apparently, who'd been waiting outside. They circled me, lips pulled back from their fangs, their intent clear. I was outnumbered, wounded, and I didn't care. I lunged at the nearest one, my claws raking across his muzzle. He yelped and fell back, and I went for another, then another. Fighting with everything I had, every ounce of training from my years as Luna, every bit of rage fueling my movements. But there were too many. One of them got behind me, his jaws closing on my hind leg. I felt bone crack, felt pain explode white-hot up my spine. Another lunged for my throat. I twisted away, but not fast enough, felt teeth sink into my shoulder, tearing through muscle. I was bleeding, badly. I could feel it draining away, my strength going with it. But I kept fighting, kept clawing and biting and refusing to go down, because if I went down, they'd kill me. And I needed to live long enough to kill Azrian, needed to make her pay for what she'd done. One of the guards had his jaws around my neck now, preparing for the killing bite. I felt his teeth start to tighten, felt my vision starting to gray at the edges. And then his weight was gone. I collapsed, gasping, blood pouring from multiple wounds. Through dimming vision, I saw a massive wolf, storm gray and twice the size of any normal shifter, tearing through Azrien's guards like they were made of paper. Dravon. He was a force of nature, brutal and efficient and absolutely merciless. I watched him rip out one guard's throat with a single shake of his massive head. Watched him disembowel another with his claws. Watched him move with a speed and ferocity that made my own fighting look like a child's tantrum. Within seconds, all 6 guards were dead or dying on the floor of Moret's common room. Dravon shifted back to human, naked and covered in blood, his chest heaving. His storm-gray eyes swept the carnage, then landed on me. "Thalindra," he breathed, and I heard the fear in his voice. I tried to shift back, but my body wouldn't cooperate. Too much damage, too much blood loss. I managed to force the shift halfway, leaving me in an agonizing in-between state, partially human, partially wolf, and in more pain than I'd ever experienced. "Don't move," Dravon said, dropping to his knees beside me. His hands hovered over my wounds, and I saw them shaking. "Gods, there's so much blood. We need a healer." "Zephran," I managed to gasp out. "My baby." "I know." His voice broke. "I know, love. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "Where?" I tried to turn my head, to see where Azrien had gone, but Dravon's hand gently stopped me. She ran. The moment I started fighting her guards, she shifted and fled. Alawan went after her, but... He shook his head. "You're bleeding out, Thalindra. I need to stop the bleeding. I need to... Let me die," I whispered. "Please, just let me die with him." "No." The word was fierce, absolute. "No, I'm not losing you too. I'm not..." His hands were on my wounds now, pressing down, trying to stem the flow of blood. "Mireille, I need clean cloth, bandages, anything." I could hear scrambling, voices, people moving around us, but it all felt distant, unimportant. My baby was dead. Nothing else mattered. "Stay with me," Dravon was saying, his voice breaking. "Please, Thalindra, stay with me. Don't leave. Don't." But I was already leaving. Already sinking into darkness that felt warm and welcoming and safe. Already going to wherever my son had gone. At least there, I wouldn't hurt anymore. I woke to white. White ceiling, white walls, white sheets pulled up to my chest. The smell of herbs and healing magic thick in the air. A healing room. I was in a healing room. Memory crashed back. Azrien, the bundle. Zephran's cold, lifeless face, the fight, the pain, the darkness. I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain lanced through my body, shoulder, side, leg, everywhere the guards had torn into me. Bandages covered most of my torso, and I could feel the tightness of healing wounds beneath them. My wolf was struggling to heal me. "Easy." A hand pressed gently on my uninjured shoulder, pushing me back down. "You're not healed enough to be moving yet." I turned my head and found Dravon sitting beside the bed. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, stubble covering his jaw, his clothes rumpled like he'd been wearing them for days. But he was smiling, weak and relieved. "You're awake," he said, and his voice was rough with emotion. "Thank the gods. You've been unconscious for 2 days. The healers weren't sure." He stopped, swallowing hard. "They weren't sure you'd make it. 2 days. I'd been unconscious for 2 days while my son... Zephran..." The word came out broken. "Where is he? I need to see him." "Thalindra, where is my son?" I tried to sit up again, and this time Dravon didn't stop me. Just helped me, his hands gentle and careful, until I was upright and could see the room properly. We were alone. Just the 2 of us in this white, sterile space. Eloan has him. Draven said quietly. She's been preparing him for burial. She wanted to wait until you woke up so you could," his voice cracked, "so you could say goodbye properly." The words hit me like fists. Burial. Goodbye. Final, absolute words that meant my baby was never coming back. "How?" I whispered. "How did she kill him?" Draven's expression darkened. The healers examined him. They think... He stopped, his jaw clenching. "They think she poisoned him. Something slow-acting. Something that would have taken days to work so she could claim natural causes if anyone questioned it. Poisoned. My sister had poisoned my 3-year-old son. Had probably given him something that made him sick, made him suffer, made him cry for me while the life drained slowly out of him. And I hadn't been there. I hadn't been there to hold him, to comfort him, to tell him I loved him one last time. I want to see him," I said, my voice steady despite the tears streaming down my face. "Now. I want to see my baby." Draven helped me stand, supporting most of my weight as I shuffled toward the door. Every step hurt. Every breath hurt. But physical pain was nothing compared to what I was feeling inside. We made it to a smaller room down the hall. Aloan was there, sitting beside a table covered in white cloth. When she saw me, she stood quickly, her own eyes red and swollen. "Thali," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I tried to catch her. I tried to... I know." I reached out with my uninjured arm and squeezed her hand. "I know. You did." She stepped aside and I saw him. Aloan had cleaned him, dressed him in soft clothes, ones I recognized from the cottage, the blue shirt he'd loved because it matched Draven's eyes. His hair was combed, his small hands folded peacefully on his chest. He looked like he was sleeping, but he was so cold. I reached out with trembling hands and touched his cheek, felt the waxy texture of his skin, the terrible stillness of him. My baby. My beautiful, fearless, perfect baby. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry, Starling. I should have protected you, should have never trusted her, should have..." My voice broke completely. I collapsed beside the table, my forehead pressed to his small chest, sobs tearing from somewhere so deep inside me, I thought I might turn inside out. Draven's hand was on my back, offering silent comfort. Aloan was crying too, her quiet sobs mixing with mine. We stayed like that for a long time, until my tears ran dry, until there was nothing left, inside me, but emptiness. Finally, I pulled back, pressed a kiss to Zephran's cold forehead, whispered, "I love you. Forever. I love you." Then I let Draven help me stand, let him support me as we left the room, let him guide me back to the healing chamber and help me lie down. "What happens now?" I asked, staring at the white ceiling. "Now you heal," Draven said gently. "Physically first. Then, no." I turned my head to look at him. What happens to Azrien? To Kavreith? Do they get away with this? Something dark flashed across Draven's face. Kavreith has been sending messages. Multiple messages. He claims he had no knowledge of what Azrien did, that she acted alone, that he's... Draven's jaw clenched. That he's devastated by Zephran's death. "Do you believe him?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe. He loved that boy, Thalindra. From what I saw at the border meeting, he genuinely loved him. I don't think even Kavreith would..." He stopped, shaking his head. "But I could be wrong. What do his messages say? What does he want?" Draven was quiet for a long moment. Then, "He wants you to come to Mountain Shadowpack. Says he's going to execute Azrien for murdering his heir. Says it's justice, and he wants you there to witness it." I stared at him. "That's a trap. Probably. He's going to try to keep me there, to force me to stay." "Probably," Draven repeated. "So I shouldn't go." "No, you absolutely should not go." Draven took my hand, lacing our fingers together. But I have a feeling you're going to anyway. He was right, because some part of me, some dark, vengeful, broken part, needed to see Azrian die. Needed to watch the life drain from her eyes the way it had drained from my son's. Needed to know that she'd paid for what she'd done, even if it meant walking into Kavreith's trap, even if it meant losing everything all over again. When? I asked. When is the execution? 5 months' time, Dravon said quietly. He's giving you 5 months to heal enough to travel. I'm going, I said. I know. It's probably a trap. I know that too. You can't stop me. I'm not going to try. Dravon's grip on my hand tightened. But I am going with you. You're not walking into that pack alone. Dravon. No arguments, he said firmly. You're my... He stopped, correcting himself. You matter to me, more than anything. And I'm not letting you face Kavreith alone. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him it was too dangerous, that he had his own problems to deal with, that Lysandra's pregnancy changed everything. But I was too tired, too empty, too broken. So I just nodded, closed my eyes, and let the darkness pull me under again. Chapter 6. 5 months passed in a haze of grief and pain. The healers kept me sedated for most of it, pumping me full of potions that dulled the agony of my healing wounds, and, mercifully, the sharper agony of my shattered heart. But even through the fog of medicinal herbs and magical intervention, I could feel Zephran's absence like a missing limb. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Cold, peaceful, gone. Every time I woke, there was a moment, one blessed, horrible moment, where I forgot, where I reached for him instinctively, expecting to feel his warm weight curled against me, expecting to hear his sleepy voice saying, "Mama, I'm hungry." Then reality would crash back in, and I'd have to live through losing him all over again. On the morning of the 5th month, I forced myself out of bed despite the healer's protests. Luna Thalindra, you're not fully healed, the head healer, an elderly woman named Avery, insisted, hovering anxiously. The wounds are closed, but the muscle tissue is still knitting. If you put too much strain on yourself, I'll be fine, I said, testing my weight on my injured leg. It held, though pain shot up my thigh with each step. I need to be able to walk, to stand, to... I stopped, swallowing hard. To attend. An execution. Avery's expression softened with sympathy. I heard about your son. I'm so very sorry. I nodded, not trusting my voice. What was there to say? Thank you for your sympathy? It doesn't help? Nothing will ever help? Dravon appeared in the doorway, dressed in formal alpha attire, dark leather and silver clasps, his hair pulled back, his expression grim and determined. He looked like what he was, a warrior preparing for battle. The carriage is ready, he said quietly. We should leave within the hour if we want to reach Mountain Shadow territory before nightfall. I'm ready now. I moved toward him, each step a small victory over pain. Let's go. Thalindra, Avery started, but I cut her off. Thank you for everything you've done, but I need to do this. I need to see... My voice caught. I need to see justice done. Avery looked like she wanted to argue, but something in my expression must have stopped her. She just nodded and stepped aside. Dravon offered me his arm, and I took it gratefully. Together we made our way through the healing house and out into the cool morning air. A carriage waited in the courtyard, sleek and black, drawn by 4 massive horses. Elowen stood beside it, dressed in traveling clothes, a wicked-looking blade strapped to her hip. I'm coming with you, she announced before I could speak. Don't even try to argue. I wouldn't dream of it, I said, managing a weak smile. Dravon helped me into the carriage, settling me against the cushioned seat with careful hands. Elowen climbed in after me, and Dravon took the seat across from us. Through the window, I could see a contingent of Dravon's warriors mounted on horses, at least 20 of them, all armed and armored. An escort fit for an alpha traveling into potentially hostile territory. "Is all this necessary?" I asked. "Yes." Draven's voice was firm. "Kavreith invited you to witness an execution, but I don't trust him not to turn this into something else. If he tries to keep you there, if he tries anything, my warriors will get you out. Even if it means war between your packs, even then." His storm-gray eyes met mine, intense and unwavering. "I'm not losing you, Thalindra. Not to Kavreith. Not to pack law. Not to anything." The carriage lurched into motion, wheels crunching over gravel. I watched Dead Moon territory slip past the window, the pack house where I'd worked, the cottage where Zephran had played, the gardens where we'd been happy for such a brief, shining moment. All of it fading behind us as we headed toward the pack that had destroyed me once already, and would probably try to destroy me again. The journey took most of the day. We traveled in silence for the first few hours, each of us lost in our own thoughts. Elowen sat beside me, her hand occasionally squeezing mine in silent support. Draven stared out the window, his jaw clenched, his whole body radiating tension. Around midday, we stopped to rest the horses and allow everyone to stretch their legs. I stepped out of the carriage carefully, testing my injured leg, and found it holding up better than expected. The healers had done good work. Not that it mattered. Physical pain was nothing compared to the gaping wound inside my chest. "Are you sure about this?" Elowen asked quietly, pulling me aside while Draven spoke with his warriors. "It's not too late to turn back, to let Kavreith execute Azrienne without you there." "I need to see it," I said. "I need to watch her die. I need to know she paid for what she did." "And if it's a trap? If Kavreith tries to keep you there? Then Draven's warriors will stop him." "Will they?" Elowen's green eyes were troubled. "Thali, this is an alpha we're talking about, on his own territory, surrounded by his own pack. If he decides to invoke pack law, if he claims you as his mate, his Luna, Draven's warriors won't be able to interfere without starting a war." "I know. I thought about this constantly over the past 5 months, played out every scenario. But I'm going anyway." "Why?" Elowen demanded. "For revenge? For closure?" "Because none of this will bring Zephran back. Nothing will bring him back." Her words stabbed like a dagger. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, threatening to fall. "I know that," I whispered. "But it's all I have left, Elowen. This one chance to make her pay. This one moment to look her in the eye and know that she's suffering even a fraction of what she made my baby suffer." My voice broke. "It's not enough. It will never be enough, but it's something." Elowen pulled me into a fierce hug. "Then I'm right beside you. Whatever happens, we face it together." "Together?" I agreed. Draven called for everyone to mount up. We climbed back into the carriage, and the journey continued. As we crossed into mountain shadow territory, I felt a shift in the air, a heaviness, a sense of coming home to a place that had never really been home at all. The forest here was different than Dead Moon. Ancient pines instead of deciduous trees, the air sharper and colder. I'd spent 8 years in this territory, 8 years walking these paths, breathing this air, trying to belong, and all of it had been a lie. We reached the pack borders as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold. Appropriate, I thought bitterly. Blood and fire. That's what this place had always been for me. Kavreith was waiting at the border with Beta Corin and a small contingent of guards. He was dressed formally, alpha attire that emphasized his authority, his power. But when his eyes landed on the carriage, I saw something flicker across his face. Pain. Genuine, devastating pain. The carriage stopped. Draven exited first, his hand resting casually on the blade at his hip. A clear message. Then he turned and offered me his hand. I took it and stepped out into the fading light. Kavreith's breath caught audibly, His amber eyes swept over me, taking in my still healing injuries, the way I was leaning slightly on Dravon for support, the emptiness in my expression. "Thalindra," he said, and his voice was rough with emotion. "You came. You knew I would." My voice was flat. "Dead. Where is she?" "In the cells beneath the pack house." Kavreith took a step toward me, then stopped when Dravon shifted slightly, putting himself more fully between us. "I want you to know, I had no idea what Azrienne planned. If I had known, if I had even suspected—" "Don't." The word came out sharp. "Don't try to absolve yourself. You brought my son to this pack. You kept him from me. You gave Azrienne access to him. So don't stand there and pretend you're blameless." Kavreith flinched like I'd struck him. "I thought I was doing what was right, bringing my heir home, giving him his birthright." "You gave him a death sentence," I interrupted. "You let a murderer near my baby, and now he's gone. So save your justifications and your guilt. I'm not here for you. I'm here to watch Azrienne die." Silence fell over the assembled wolves. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Finally, Kavreith nodded. "The execution is set for dawn tomorrow. You can stay in the pack house tonight." "No," Dravon's voice was firm. "We'll camp at the border. My warriors will maintain a perimeter. Tomorrow we come for the execution. Then we leave." "I'm not going to kidnap her," Kavreith said, irritation bleeding into his tone. "Forgive me if I don't take you at your word." Dravon's smile was cold. "You've already proven how little your promises mean." Kavreith's eyes flashed, his wolf rising to the surface. For a moment, I thought he might challenge Dravon right there. Two alphas, both furious, both protective of me in their own destructive ways. "Stop," I said quietly. Both men turned to look at me. "This isn't about either of you. This is about Zephran, about making his murderer pay. Everything else," I gestured vaguely between them, "is irrelevant." "Thalindra's right," Beta Corin spoke up for the first time. "We're here for justice. Let's focus on that." Kavreith's jaw clenched, but he nodded. "Dawn. The execution square in the center of the pack grounds. The entire pack will witness." "We'll be there," I said. I turned to climb back into the carriage, but Kavreith's voice stopped me. "I loved him too." His words were quiet, broken. "I only had him for 3 days, but I loved him. And I will make Azrienne pay for what she did. I swear it on my life, on my pack, on everything I am." I looked back at him, saw the tears tracking down his face, saw the genuine devastation in his eyes, and felt absolutely nothing. "Good," I said. "Because if you don't, I will." We camped at the border as Dravon had insisted. His warriors set up a perimeter, building fires and establishing watch rotations like we were preparing for siege, which, in a way, we were. Aloan managed to coax me into eating something, dried meat and bread, that tasted like ash in my mouth. Dravon sat beside me, his presence steady and comforting, even though neither of us spoke much. As night fell fully, Elowen excused herself to check on the perimeter guards. The moment she was gone, Dravon turned to me. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. I almost laughed. "No, I'm not all right. I'm never going to be all right again." "I know, stupid question." He ran a hand through his hair. I don't know what to say. How to help. How to make any of this bearable. "You can't." I stared into the fire, watching flames dance and flicker. Nothing can make this bearable. But I turned to look at him. Having you here helps. Knowing I'm not alone helps. He reached out and took my hand, lacing our fingers together. "You're not alone. Not anymore. Not ever again, if I have anything to say about it." "What about Lysandra?" I asked. "What about the baby?" Dravon's expression darkened. "I've been thinking about that. A lot. And I've decided..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "If the child is mine, I'll support it. I'll make sure it has everything it needs. But I won't mate Lysandra. Won't give her what she's trying to manipulate me into. She'll make your life hell, I warned. Let her try. His grip on my hand tightened. I've already lived through hell. Lost the woman I love once. Watched you nearly die defending yourself against your sister's guards. Nothing Lysandra can throw at me will be worse than that. You don't have to choose me, I said quietly. Your child, your potential child, deserves a father who's present, who's committed, not someone torn between. I'm not torn, Dravon interrupted. I choose you, Thalindra. I will always choose you. And any child I father, if that baby is really mine, will have a father who loves them. But they'll also have a father who refuses to be manipulated, who won't reward Lysandra's scheming by giving her what she wants. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let myself hope that maybe, despite everything, we could build something real together. But hope was a dangerous thing. Hope had led me to trust Azrienne. Hope had gotten my son killed. I couldn't afford to hope anymore. Get some rest, Dravon said gently, misreading my silence. Tomorrow is going to be... He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Tomorrow my sister would die. Tomorrow I would watch the life drain from her eyes. Tomorrow I would get the justice I'd been craving. And it still wouldn't be enough. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Zephran's face, heard his voice calling for me, felt the phantom weight of his small body in my arms. So I sat by the fire and watched the night pass, minute by agonizing minute, until finally, the sky began to lighten in the east. Dawn. Dravon emerged from his tent, already dressed and armed. Alawan appeared moments later, her expression grim and determined. It's time, Dravon said quietly. We mounted horses. I was steady enough now to ride, though Dravon stayed close beside me, ready to catch me if I faltered. His warriors fell into formation around us, a protective barrier between us and whatever awaited at the pack grounds. The ride to the execution square took 20 minutes. It was in the center of the pack settlement, a large open space surrounded by the pack house, the elders' hall, and various shops and dwellings. Already wolves were gathering. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The entire pack turning out to witness their former Luna watch her sister die. A platform had been erected in the center of the square, and chained to a post on that platform, Azrienne. She looked terrible. Her perfect hair was matted and filthy. Her expensive dress was torn and stained. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut. Someone had beaten her badly. Good, I thought viciously. Let her suffer. Our party dismounted near the platform. Dravon's warriors formed a protective circle around me and Alawan, their hands on their weapons, their eyes scanning the crowd for threats. Kavreith was already there, standing beside the platform with Beta Corin and the pack elders. When he saw us approach, he gestured to a spot near the front, reserved seating apparently for the victim's mother. How thoughtful. I walked forward, each step measured and deliberate despite the pain radiating through my healing injuries. The crowd parted for me, wolves stepping back, their expressions ranging from pity to curiosity to outright hostility. I ignored them all. My eyes were locked on Azrienne. She saw me coming and smiled. Actually smiled. Even bruised and beaten and chained, even facing her own death, she looked at me with that same cold amusement. "Hello, sister," she called out, her voice hoarse but mocking. "Come to watch the show?" I didn't answer. Just took my place in front of the platform, Dravon on my right, Alawan on my left. Kavreith stepped forward, his voice carrying across the silent square. "We are gathered here to witness justice. Azrienne Thornwick stands accused of the murder of Zephran Thornwick, heir to Mountain Shadowpack. She has confessed to the crime. The sentence is death by beheading, to be carried out immediately. A murmur ran through the crowd. Some approving. Some shocked that an alpha would execute his own. Wait. My mind caught on something Kavreith had said. She confessed? I looked at Azrienne and saw her still smiling, that infuriating smile. I did it, she announced loudly, her voice ringing across the square. I killed the brat, poisoned him slowly over a week, watched him suffer, listened to him cry for his precious mama. She turned her smile on me. And I'd do it again. Because you took what was mine, Thalindra. You had everything. The alpha, the pack, the title, and you threw it away. So I took something from you. Rage flooded through me so intensely I swayed on my feet. Drevon's hand was on my arm, immediately steadying me. Any last words? Kavreith asked, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. Just one. Azrienne's eyes locked onto mine. It was worth it. Seeing the look on your face when you realized he was dead. Worth everything. Kavreith nodded to the executioner, a massive wolf I didn't recognize, holding an equally massive axe. The executioner moved onto the platform, positioning himself behind Azrienne. This was it. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. The moment my sister would pay for what she'd done. I should have felt satisfaction, vindication, something, but all I felt was empty. The executioner raised his axe. The crowd held its collective breath. Kavreith's hand came up, ready to give the signal. Wait! A voice rang out from the crowd. Everyone turned. A figure pushed through the assembled wolves, a messenger, judging by his clothing, running full speed toward the platform. Alpha Kavreith! The messenger shouted, breathless. Message from the western border. Urgent! Kavreith's expression darkened. This can wait. It can't, Alpha. The messenger reached the platform and thrust a sealed parchment at Kavreith. It's from Alpha Hadrian of Iron Ridge. He demands immediate response. Kavreith snatched the parchment, broke the seal, and read quickly. His face went through several emotions, surprise, fury, and finally something that looked almost like triumph. He looked at me, then at Azrienne, then back at the parchment. Interesting, he said slowly. It seems we have a complication. My stomach dropped. What kind of complication? Kavreith smiled, and it was cold and calculating and everything I'd feared. The kind that changes everything. He gestured to his guards. Take Azrienne back to the cells. The execution is postponed. What? The word exploded from my throat. You can't. You promised. I promised justice, Kavreith corrected. And justice requires all relevant information, which I've just received. He held up the parchment. According to Alpha Hadrian, there's a witness. Someone who claims to have crucial evidence about Zephran's death. Evidence that suggests Azrienne didn't act alone. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Drevon's hand tightened on my arm, his whole body going rigid. Who? I demanded. Who's the witness? Someone from Dead Moon Pack, Kavreith said, his eyes never leaving mine. Someone who was close to you, who had access to your son, who had motive to see him dead. No, he couldn't be suggesting. The witness claims, Kavreith continued, that Alpha Drevon Shadowmere hired Azrienne to kill Zephran, that he wanted your son dead so you'd have no reason to return to me, so you'd be free to be with him. The accusation hung in the air like poison. I felt Drevon go absolutely still beside me. When I looked at him, his face had gone pale, his expression shocked and horrified. That's a lie, he said, his voice low and dangerous. I would never. I loved that. Boy, I would have died before letting anyone hurt him. Then you won't mind staying while we investigate, Kavreith said smoothly. Just a few days. To verify the witness's claims. To ensure we have the full truth before carrying out the execution. This is a trap, Elowen hissed. Thali, this is the trap. He's going to keep you here. I can't leave, I said, my voice hollow. Not until I see Azrienne die. Not until... Thalindra. Draven's hands were on my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. We need to leave. Now. This is exactly what he wanted. An excuse to keep you here. To separate us. If you leave, Kavreith called out, you forfeit the execution. Azrian goes free. Is that what you want? I turned to stare at him. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? His smile was cruel. Without a full investigation, without hearing all the evidence, how can I in good conscience execute her? What if she really was hired by someone else? What if she's just a pawn in a larger game? She confessed! I screamed. She admitted it. She said she'd do it again. Under duress, Kavreith countered smoothly. After days of torture by my guards. Any confession given under such circumstances is suspect. You know that, Thalindra. You were Luna for 8 years. You know pack law. He had me. The bastard had me and he knew it. If I left now, Azrian might go free. Might escape justice entirely. Might live to murder again. But if I stayed, I was playing right into Kavreith's hands, giving him exactly what he wanted. What are your terms? I asked quietly. No, Draven started, but I held up a hand. What are your terms? I repeated, staring at Kavreith. Simple. You and Draven stay in Mountain Shadow territory as my guests while we investigate these accusations. 3 days. If the witnesses' claims prove false, the execution proceeds as planned. If they prove true, he shrugged, then we have a more complicated situation. And if we refuse, Draven demanded, then Azrian is released immediately, and you're both banned from Mountain Shadow territory forever. Kavreith's amber eyes were hard. Your choice. I looked at Draven, saw the fury and frustration warring in his expression, saw him calculating odds, weighing options, trying to find a way out of this that didn't end in disaster. But there was no way out. There never had been. This was the trap, and I'd walked right into it. 3 days, I said. We stay for 3 days. But we're not separated. And your guards don't touch us. Those are my conditions. Kavreith smiled, victorious. Agreed. You'll stay in the guest quarters in the pack house. Together. Unharmed. He gestured to Beta Corin. See to their accommodations. This is a mistake, Draven said urgently, leaning close to me. Thalindra, please. We need to leave before... I can't. I turned to face him fully. I can't leave until I see her die. I can't... My voice broke. She killed my baby, Draven. She murdered my son and smiled about it. If there's even the smallest chance she could go free. I know. His hands cupped my face gently. I know. But this is what Kavreith wanted. This was always what he wanted. I know that too. I placed my hands over his, but I'm staying anyway. Around us, Kavreith's guards were moving into position. Draven's warriors were tensing, hands on weapons, ready to fight. Stand down, Draven called to his men, his alpha command ringing through the square. We're staying. For 3 days. But maintain the perimeter. No one in or out without my express permission. His warriors reluctantly obeyed, though I could see the worry on their faces. Beta Corin approached cautiously. If you'll follow me, I'll show you to your quarters. As we walked toward the pack house, the building I'd lived in for 8 years, the place that had been both my home and my prison, I felt Kavreith's eyes on my back, watching, calculating, planning whatever came next. And I wondered, not for the first time, if Elowyn had been right, if coming here had been the biggest mistake of my life, if I'd just traded one trap for another, even more deadly one. But it was too late to turn back now. The cage door had closed, and this time, I wasn't sure I'd ever get out. Chapter 7. The guest quarters were exactly as I remembered them. Luxurious, spacious. A gilded cage designed to make prisoners feel like honored visitors. Rich tapestries on the walls. A massive 4-poster bed draped in silk. Windows that overlooked the forest. Windows with bars cunningly disguised as decorative ironwork. I'd helped design these rooms 8 years ago, back when I'd still believed I belonged here. Back when I'd thought being Luna meant something. Now they just felt like a tomb. "This is the same room," I said quietly, running my fingers over the familiar bedpost. "The same room where visiting alphas used to stay when they came for council meetings." Dreven was examining the windows, testing the bars with careful hands. The bars are reinforced, silver-coated. Even in wolf form, we wouldn't be able to break through. "I know." I moved to the door and tried the handle. Locked from the outside, as expected. "We're prisoners. Kavreith is just being polite about it. We shouldn't have stayed." Dreven turned from the window, his expression tight with frustration. "We should have left the moment he postponed the execution. Should have let Azrien go free?" I interrupted. "Let her walk away unpunished for murdering my son? She'll be executed eventually. Once this farce of an investigation, you don't know that." I sank onto the edge of the bed, my injured leg aching from the morning's activities. "Kavreith is clever, ruthless. If he wants Azrien freed, he'll find a way to justify it. Some loophole in pack law, some technicality. Then we'll hunt her down ourselves," Dreven said fiercely. "Track her to the ends of the earth if we have to. But we didn't need to walk into this trap." "Yes, we did." I looked up at him, saw the worry and anger warring in his storm-gray eyes. "Because this isn't just about Azrien anymore. It's about Kavreith. About him finally getting what he wants." "Which is?" "Me." The word tasted bitter. He's wanted me back since the moment I disappeared. And now he has me. Locked in his pack house. Under his control. Exactly where he's wanted me for 3 years. Dreven crossed the room and knelt in front of me, taking my hands in his. Then we play along. For 3 days we cooperate with his investigation. We prove the accusations against me are false, and the moment that execution is over, we leave and never come back. I wanted to believe him. Wanted to think it could be that simple. But I'd lived in this pack for 8 years. I knew how Kavreith's mind worked, how he manipulated situations to get what he wanted, how he used pack law and tradition as weapons. He hadn't brought us here just for 3 days. He'd brought us here to keep us. Permanently. A knock at the door made us both tense. Dreven stood smoothly, positioning himself between me and the entrance, his hand dropping to his blade. "Who is it?" he called out. "Beta, Corin." The voice was familiar, apologetic. "I've brought dinner." Dreven glanced at me. I nodded, and he opened the door carefully. Corin stood there with a tray laden with food, roasted meat, fresh bread, vegetables, wine. His expression was troubled, guilty. "The Alpha thought you might be hungry after your journey," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "How thoughtful," I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. "Does our jailer often feed his prisoners so well?" Corin flinched. "You're not prisoners, Luna Thalindra. You're guests. Guests who can't leave. Guests locked in a room with barred windows. Guests held under false accusations." I stood, ignoring the pain shooting through my leg. "Call it what it is, Corin. We're prisoners, and you're complicit." "I'm sorry." He set the tray on the table near the window, his movements careful. "I tried to talk him out of this. Tried to tell him that keeping you here against your will would only make things worse. But he wouldn't listen." "Because this was always his plan," I said. "Wasn't it? The witness, the accusations against Dreven, the postponed execution. All of it calculated to trap us here." Corin's silence was answer enough. "Is there even a real witness?" Dreven demanded. "Or was that parchment from Iron Ridge fabricated?" "I don't know," Corin admitted. "Kavreith won't tell me. He stopped, choosing his words carefully. "He's been different since Zephran died. Colder, more ruthless. like something broke inside him when he realized his son was gone. His son that he kept from me, I said bitterly. His son that he put in danger by bringing him here. His son that he... My voice broke. I couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't push past the grief that still felt raw and fresh and devastating. Corin's expression softened with genuine sympathy. I know you blame him, and maybe you're right to. But he loved that boy, Thalindra. In the 3 days he had him, Zephran became everything to Kavreith. Losing him, he shook his head. It destroyed something in him. Good, I said coldly. Let him suffer. Let him feel a fraction of what I feel. He wants to see you, Corin said quietly. Tonight, after dinner. He's requested a private audience. No? Drevon's voice was flat. Absolute. She's not going anywhere near him alone. He anticipated you'd say that. Corin pulled a second sealed parchment from his jacket and handed it to Drevon. He wrote this for you. Said to read it before you refused. Drevon broke the seal and scanned the contents. His face went pale, then flushed with rage. What does it say? I asked. He's threatening Elowin. Drevon's hands were shaking as he held the parchment. Says if we don't cooperate, if you don't meet with him privately, he'll have her arrested for assaulting Lysandra, exile her from the territory, or worse. My blood ran cold. He wouldn't. Elowin isn't even part of this pack. She's in Mountain Shadow territory, under Mountain Shadow law. Corin's expression was miserable. Technically, he has the authority. This is insane, Drevon snarled. He's blackmailing us with threats against someone completely uninvolved. Nothing about this is sane, I interrupted quietly. I turned to Corin. When does he want to see me? Thalindra, no. Drevon started. We don't have a choice. I met his eyes, saw the fury and helplessness warring there. If I don't go, he'll hurt Elowin, and I won't let anyone else suffer because of me. Then I'm coming with you. He specified private, Corin said apologetically. Just the two of them. In his office. No guards. No witnesses. Absolutely not. Drevon's alpha command bled into his voice. I'm not letting her walk into a room alone with a man who's proven he can't be trusted. Then Elowin pays the price, I said softly. Is that what you want? Drevon stared at me, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Finally, he turned to Corin. Where will you be during this meeting? Outside the office door, with 2 guards. Dead Moon guards, Drevon specified. My warriors, not Kavreith's. Corin hesitated, then nodded. I'll arrange it. And if I hear anything at all that sounds like distress, we're coming in. Consequences be damned. Understood. Corin moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. About all of this. About Zephran. About... He gestured vaguely at the locked room, the barred windows, the trap we'd walked into. Everything. He left before I could respond. Drevon and I stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of what was coming pressing down on us. I don't like this, he said finally. I don't trust Kavreith. Don't trust what he might do if he gets you alone. Neither do I. I moved to the table and stared at the food Corin had brought. My stomach churned at the thought of eating. But what choice do we have? We could fight our way out. My warriors could start a war between 2 packs, get people killed. For what? I shook my head. No, we play this out. We see what Kavreith wants, and then we find a way to end this that doesn't result in bloodshed. What if what he wants is you? Drevon asked quietly. What if this whole thing, the accusations, the threats, the meeting, is just him maneuvering to get you back? To force you to choose between staying with him or watching everyone you care about suffer? Then I'll deal with it. I forced myself to pick up a piece of bread, though the thought of eating made me nauseous. But I won't let him hurt Elowin, or you, or anyone else. Thalindra. I've survived worse than Kavreith, I interrupted. I've survived his betrayal, survived losing Zephran, survived nearly being killed by Azrien's guards. I can survive one conversation. Dravon didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue further. Just moved to stand beside me, his solid presence offering comfort even in the middle of this nightmare. We ate in silence, or tried to. The food was excellent, as expected. Kavreith had always prided himself on his pack's cuisine, but everything tasted like ash in my mouth. As we were finishing, another knock came at the door. "It's time," Corin's voice called through the wood. "The Alpha is ready to see you." I stood, smoothing my dress with hands that trembled slightly. Dravon caught my wrist, pulling me close. "If he touches you," he said, his voice low and dangerous, "if he hurts you in any way, I'll scream loud enough for you to hear," I promised. "And then you can tear this pack house apart, looking for me." He kissed me then, fierce and desperate and full of unspoken fears. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "Come back to me," he whispered. "Always." I pulled away and walked to the door before I could lose my nerve. Corin was waiting outside, flanked by 2 of Dravon's warriors. They fell into step around me, a protective escort that made me feel slightly less vulnerable. We walked through corridors I'd once known intimately, past the great hall where I'd sat through countless council meetings, past the dining room where I'd hosted visiting dignitaries, past rooms full of memories I'd spent 3 years trying to forget. Finally, we stopped outside a familiar door. Kavreith's private office. Corin knocked once, and Kavreith's voice called out, "Enter!" I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The office was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood paneling, shelves lined with books and pack records, a massive desk positioned to face the door, and behind that desk, standing near the window with a glass of amber liquid in his hand, Kavreith. He looked older than he had this morning. Tired. The lines around his eyes were deeper, his shoulders slightly slumped. When he turned to face me, I saw genuine pain in his amber eyes. "Thalindra," he said quietly, "thank you for coming. I didn't have much choice." I stayed near the door, every muscle tense. "You threatened Alawan. I needed to ensure you'd come, that we could talk without—" He gestured vaguely toward the door, toward where Dravon was presumably pacing outside. "Without interference. What do you want, Kavreith?" He took a drink, his eyes never leaving mine. "I want to apologize." Of all the things I'd expected him to say, that wasn't one of them. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, the manipulation, the trap within the trap. "I know you don't believe me," he continued. "I know you think this is all some scheme to keep you here. And maybe," he paused, his jaw clenching, "maybe part of it is. But I genuinely didn't know what Azrien was planning. I swear it on my life, on my pack, on Zephran's memory. If I had known she intended to hurt him, I would have killed her myself." "Then why did you bring him here?" I demanded. "Why did you take him from me?" "Because he was my son." Kavreith's control cracked slightly. "Because pack law gave me the right. Because I thought," his voice broke, "I thought I could have a family. Thought I could fix what I'd broken. Thought maybe if I brought you both home, we could what? Go back to how things were? Pretend you didn't destroy our marriage? Pretend I didn't spend 8 years being judged and found wanting by your pack?" I laughed, bitter and broken. "There was no fixing what you broke, Kavreith. There was only surviving it." "I know." He set his glass down with careful precision. "And I know bringing Zephran here was the wrong choice. That keeping him from you was cruel. That everything I did was—" He stopped, struggling with words, was motivated by selfishness, by wanting to have what I'd lost, by refusing to accept that I'd driven away the one good thing in my life. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Why bring me here to apologize when we both know you have other motives?" Because I need you to understand something." Kavreith moved around the desk, and I tensed, but he stopped several feet away, maintaining distance. When Corin brought the news of Zephran's death, when I heard what Azrienne had done, something inside me died. I'd only had him for 3 days, Thalindra. 3 days of watching him smile, hearing him laugh, teaching him to track. 3 days of being his father. His voice was shaking now, tears streaming down his face, and it was the best 3 days of my life. Better than becoming alpha. Better than winning territorial disputes. Better than anything I'd ever experienced. Because for the first time in my entire existence, I understood what it meant to love something more than myself. I felt my own tears building, but I refused to let them fall. Refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing how much his words affected me. "And then she took him from me," Kavreith continued, "just like I'd taken him from you. And I finally understood what I'd put you through. The agony of having your child ripped away. The helplessness. The rage. The grief so profound it feels like drowning." "Is that supposed to make me forgive you?" I asked. "Because you finally experienced a fraction of what you put me through?" "No. Nothing will make this right. Nothing can undo what I did." He took a shuddering breath. "But I'm asking anyway. I'm asking you to stay. Not because of pack law. Not because of threats or manipulation. But because..." He met my eyes, and I saw naked desperation there. "Because I can't lose you again. Losing Zephran nearly destroyed me. Losing you, too, would finish the job." "You already lost me," I said quietly. "The moment you climbed into bed with my sister. The moment you chose your betrayal over our marriage. Whatever we had, whatever we might have been, died that day. I know, but maybe..." He took a step closer. "Maybe we could build something new. Not a return to what was, but something different. Something..." "I'm in love with someone else," I interrupted. Kavreith froze. "Dravon. Yes, Dravon. Who didn't betray me. Who didn't make me feel worthless. Who loved my son like he was his own." I saw each word hit Kavreith hard. "So no, Kavreith. I won't stay. I won't build something new with you. The moment that execution is over, the moment I watch Azrienne pay for what she did, I'm leaving this pack and never coming back." Silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. Then Kavreith's expression changed, hardened. The vulnerability disappeared, replaced by something colder, more calculating. "I was hoping you'd say that," he said quietly. Warning bells went off in my head. "What?" "I was hoping you'd refuse, that you'd choose Dravon over me, over your pack, over everything we built together." He moved to the desk and pulled out a document, official-looking parchment covered in dense text, "because it makes what comes next so much easier." "What are you talking about? You're still my Luna, Thalindra. Legally, pack law recognizes our bond until one of us formally rejects it. And you never did. Never went through the ceremony. Never made it official." My blood turned to ice. "Kavreith, which means," he continued, his voice taking on that alpha command that made lesser wolves submit, "that I still have certain rights. As your mate, as your alpha, as the male you're bound to whether you like it or not." "No." I backed toward the door. "No, you wouldn't." "I would." He moved between me and the exit with predatory speed. "I will, because I'm done playing fair. Done letting you slip away. Done watching you choose someone else when you're mine." I tried to shift, to let my wolf take over, but pain exploded through my still healing injuries. "I..." gasped, stumbling, and Kavreith caught me. "Don't fight," he said, and there was genuine regret in his voice beneath the determination. "Please, Thalindra, don't make this harder than it has to be." "Let me go," I snarled, trying to pull away. But my injured leg gave out, and I fell. Kavreith caught me again, lifting me easily despite my struggles. He carried me to the couch against the far wall and set me down carefully. "Draven!" I screamed. "Help! He's—" Kavreith's hand covered my mouth. Not violently, not cruelly, just firmly enough to muffle my cries. "The walls are thick," he said quietly. "Soundproofed. I had them reinforced years ago for private meetings. No one can hear you." I bit down on his hand, tasting blood. He hissed in pain but didn't pull away. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. "I swear, I'm not going to force you. I'm not—" He pulled his bleeding hand away and reached into his jacket pocket, pulling out a small vial. "I'm just going to help you relax. Help you remember what we had, what we could have again." The vial held dark red liquid. Wine, but not just wine. I could smell the herbs from here. Could recognize the scent of aphrodisiacs. Powerful ones, the kind used in mating ceremonies to heighten desire and lower inhibitions. "No," I whispered. "Kavreith, please, don't do this. Don't." "I have to." He uncorked the vial. "Because if I let you leave, if I let you go back to Draven, I'll never get another chance. You'll disappear again, and this time, I won't find you. This is RC, I said, my voice shaking. "Even if the wine makes me willing, even if it makes me want you, it's still IRE, Kavreith." "No." He knelt beside the couch, his eyes tortured but resolved. "It's rekindling what we lost, reminding you that you're mine, that we belong together, that pack law— Fuck pack law!" I tried to scramble away, but my injured leg collapsed again. "Fuck your claims! Fuck your justifications! I don't want you! I will never want you! And no amount of drugs will change that. Maybe not." He pulled me back gently, positioning me against the cushions. "But it will give us one night. One chance to violate me," I spat. "To take away the one thing I have left. My choice. My autonomy. My—" He kissed me then. And God's help me. The wine was already on his lips, already seeping into my mouth, into my bloodstream. I felt it immediately, a warmth spreading through my body, pooling low in my belly. I tried to fight it, tried to push him away, but the herbs were powerful, designed specifically to override rational thought and replace it with pure physical need. My body started responding against my will, my skin heating, my breath quickening, my treacherous flesh betraying everything my mind was screaming. "That's it," Kavreith murmured against my lips. "Just let it happen. Let yourself feel—" "I hate you," I gasped out, even as my hands found his shoulders, even as my body arched toward him. "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." "I know." He pulled back long enough to uncork the vial fully and press it to my lips. "I know, love, but drink anyway. Drink and let me show you what we could have." I tried to resist, tried to keep my lips sealed, but my body was betraying me, the aphrodisiacs already in my system demanding more. I opened my mouth and he tipped the vial. The wine flooded across my tongue, sweet and spiced and full of herbs that made my head spin and my body ignite. I swallowed involuntarily, felt the liquid fire spread through my veins, and then I was lost. My mind was still screaming, still fighting, still knowing this was wrong, was violation, was everything I'd sworn would never happen to me again. But my body didn't care. My body wanted, needed, demanded. The wine had stripped away everything except pure, mindless desire. Kavreith's hands were on me, gentle despite the drugs, despite the wrongness of this. He was murmuring things I couldn't quite hear over the roaring, in my ears. Promises, apologies, declarations of love that meant nothing, because this wasn't love. This was possession, ownership, control. "Please," I heard myself whimper, though I didn't know what I was asking for. "Please stop. Please continue. Please make the burning go away." "I've got you," Kavreith said, and there was such tenderness in his voice it made my drugged mind weep. "I've always had you. You're mine, Thalindra. You've always been mine." His hands found the fastenings of my dress, started unlacing, removing barriers between us with practiced ease. And I let him. Gods help me, I let him. Because the wine had made my body forget how to say no. I came back to myself slowly. The aphrodisiacs were fading, their effects wearing off like a receding tide. As my mind cleared, the horror of what had happened crashed over me. I was lying on the couch, naked, covered in a blanket that hadn't been there before. My dress was folded neatly on a nearby chair. My body ached in ways that had nothing to do with my healing injuries. And Kavreith was sitting on the floor beside the couch, his head in his hands. He was dressed again, which meant at some point during my drug-induced haze, I was going to be sick. I scrambled upright, clutching the blanket to my chest, and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through multiple parts of my body, evidence of what we'd done, what he'd made me do. "Don't," Kavreith said quietly, not looking at me. "Don't try to move too quickly. The wine's effects are probably still. Get away from me." My voice came out hoarse, destroyed. He finally looked up, and I saw tears on his face. "Thalindra, get away from me." I screamed it this time, and saw him flinch. "Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't..." A sob tore from my throat. I pulled the blanket tighter, trying to cover myself, trying to hide the evidence of what he'd done. "I'm sorry," Kavreith said, and he sounded broken. "I'm so sorry. I thought if you just remembered what we had, you are ped me," I said, the words cutting through his pathetic justifications. "You drugged me, and you wrapped me, and no amount of aphrodisiacs makes that okay. No amount of pack law justifies what you just did." "It wasn't Ree," he protested weakly. I wanted nothing!" I was shaking now, violent tremors racking my whole body. "The drugs wanted. My body, hijacked by herbs designed to override consent, wanted. But I wanted nothing from you except to be left alone." He stood, moving toward me, his hands outstretched. "Please, touch me again and I'll kill you." The scream tore from somewhere primal. "I swear on Zephran's grave, on everything I have left. If you touch me again, I will shift and tear your throat out." Kavreith stopped, stared at me with devastated eyes. "I need you to leave," I said, my voice shaking. "I need you to get out of this room and send Corin. I need clothes. My voice broke completely. "I need Dravon. Thalindra, now." He left, actually turned and walked out of his own office, closing the door quietly behind him. The moment he was gone, I collapsed. Pulled the blanket over my head and sobbed, deep, wrenching sounds that hurt my throat and my chest and every part of me that was already broken. He'd violated me. The man I'd once loved, once trusted, once built a life with. He'd drugged me and used my body while my mind screamed in protest. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? Some small, treacherous part of me remembered it feeling good. Remembered my drugged body responding to his touch. Remembered moments of pleasure that made me want to crawl out of my own skin. The door opened. I tensed, ready to fight, ready to shift despite the pain. "Thali?" Elowen's voice, gentle, worried. Oh gods, what did he do?" She was beside me instantly, her arms around me, holding me while I fell apart. I clung to her, this woman who'd stood by me through everything, and let myself break completely. "He drugged me," I managed to gasp out between sobs. "Wine, aphrodisiacs. He... "I know," Elowen said, her voice thick with fury and tears. "Corin told me he's outside in the hallway, arguing with Dravon. She stopped. "Dravon wants to kill him. Wants to tear this whole pack house apart. Corin's barely keeping him from— I need to see him, I said. I can't— You're not dressed, Elowen said gently. Let me help you. And then— Her voice turned hard as steel. And then we're getting you out of here. Consequences be damned. She helped me into my dress with shaking hands, helped me stand on trembling legs, helped me walk to the door even though every step felt like walking through broken glass. When we stepped into the hallway, I saw them immediately. Dravon, being physically restrained by 4 of his own warriors. His eyes were wild, his canines extended, his whole body shaking with barely controlled rage. And Beta Corin, standing between Dravon and Kavreith's office door, his expression anguished. The moment Dravon saw me, he stopped fighting, went completely still. Then he saw my face, saw whatever devastation was written there, saw the truth. No, he breathed. No, he didn't. Tell me he didn't. I couldn't speak, couldn't form words. Just shook my head and felt fresh tears spill down my cheeks. Dravon's roar shook the hallway. He tore free from his warriors with inhuman strength and charged toward Kavreith's office door. Corin tried to stop him, but Dravon threw him aside like he weighed nothing. The door splintered under Dravon's kick. I heard Kavreith shout something, heard sounds of a struggle, heard furniture breaking and glass shattering. Then Dravon was dragging Kavreith out into the hallway by his throat. You touched her! Dravon slammed Kavreith against the wall hard enough to crack the plaster. You drugged her! You were her! I didn't, Kavreith choked out, clawing at Dravon's hands. It wasn't. Don't you dare! Dravon's grip tightened. Don't you dare try to justify what you did. I should kill you right now. Should rip your throat out and watch you bleed. Dravon? My voice was small, broken, but it cut through his rage. He turned to look at me, his eyes filled with such anguish it made my heart break all over again. Don't kill him, I said quietly. Not here. Not like this. Not— I swallowed hard. Not while I'm watching. He deserves to die, Dravon growled. He does, I agreed. But not today. Today. My voice cracked. Today, I just want to leave. I want to get out of this pack and never come back. The execution, Corin started. I don't care anymore, I said. Azriel can live or die. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters except getting out of here. Dravon released Kavreith, who collapsed to the floor gasping. Then he was beside me, his hands gentle despite the violence still radiating from him. Can you walk? He asked softly. I don't know. He swept me into his arms, cradling me against his chest. Then I'll carry you. You can't leave, Kavreith rasped from the floor. The deal, 3 days, the investigation. Damn your deal, Dravon snarled. Damn your investigation. Damn your entire pack. We're leaving now. I'll have you arrested, Kavreith threatened weakly. You and all your warriors. I'll— Try it. Dravon's voice dropped into something deadly. Give me an excuse. Any excuse. And I'll come back here with my entire pack and burn Mountain Shadow to the ground. He started walking, his warriors falling into formation around us. Elowen was beside me, her hand on my arm, her expression murderous. Behind us, I heard Kavreith calling my name, heard him trying to stand, to follow. Heard Corin stopping him, arguing with him in low, urgent tones. But I didn't look back. Couldn't look back. Because if I did, if I saw his face, I might actually shift and kill him myself. We made it to the pack house entrance. Out into the cool night air. Toward the waiting horses and the border and freedom. Almost there. Almost safe. Then a scream cut through the night. Not a wolf's howl. A human scream. Female. Agonized. Everyone froze. What was that? Elowen demanded. One of Dravon's warriors appeared at a run, his face pale. Alpha! You need to come. It's the woman, the pregnant one. Lysandra? Dravon's arms tightened around me. What about her? She followed us here. Collapsed just inside pack territory. She's The warrior swallowed hard. She's in labor. And something's wrong. Really wrong. Chapter 8. No. Draven's voice was flat. Absolute. We're leaving. Whatever's happening to Lysandra. She's dying, the warrior interrupted. Alpha, she's hemorrhaging. The healers say if we don't act fast. Then let Mountain Shadow's healers handle it, Draven said coldly. It's not our problem. That's your child. The warrior protested. Possibly your child. You can't just... Watch me. Draven adjusted his grip on me and started walking again. We're done with this pack. Done with all of it. But another scream cut through the night. Louder this time. More agonized. And despite everything, despite the violation still burning through my body, despite the devastation and rage and trauma, I felt something twist in my chest. That scream. I knew that sound. It was the sound of a woman dying, of a mother losing her battle to bring life into the world. Stop, I heard myself say. Draven froze. Thalindra, put me down. No, we're leaving. We're getting you out of here and put me down. My voice was stronger now, cutting through his protests. Please, Draven, put me down. He set me carefully on my feet, his hands hovering near my waist to steady me. His storm-gray eyes searched mine, confused and worried. You can't seriously be thinking, he started. That might be your child, I interrupted. Your blood. Your heir. Can you really walk away? Can you live with yourself if that baby dies because you left? After what just happened to you? After what Kavreith did? You want to stay. Draven's voice rose. You want to help the woman who manipulated me? Who took advantage of me when I was drunk and devastated? I don't want to help her, I said quietly. I want to help an innocent child who didn't ask to be born into this nightmare. Another scream. Weaker this time. Fading. She's manipulated you before, Elowen said urgently. This could be another trick. Another way to keep you here. Maybe. I straightened despite the pain radiating through my body. But what if it's not? What if there really is a baby dying right now because we're too angry to care? Draven stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. Maybe the trauma had broken something fundamental inside me. But I couldn't walk away. Couldn't leave a child to die, even if that child was Lysandra's. Where is she? I asked the warrior. The healing house, southern edge of pack territory. The Mountain Shadow healers are with her, but they're saying... He swallowed hard. They're saying she won't make it through the night. Then we go, I said. Now. Thalindra, you were just... Draven stopped, unable to finish the sentence. You need rest. Need time to recover. I need to do this, I interrupted. My voice cracked. I lost Zephran. I lost my baby. And if there's even the smallest chance we can save this one. Tears were streaming down my face again. Please, Draven. Let's at least try. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he turned to his warriors. Take us to the healing house, he commanded. But we maintain armed guard. If this is a trick, if Kavreith tries anything, we fight our way out. The warrior nodded and took off at a run. Draven swept me back into his arms despite my protests. You can barely stand, he said firmly. Let me carry you. I didn't have the strength to argue. Just let my head rest against his shoulder as he followed the warrior through Mountain Shadow territory toward the healing house. Elowen kept pace beside us, her hand on her blade, her eyes scanning for threats. The healing house was a modest building on the southern edge of the pack grounds. Light spilled from every window, and I could hear voices inside, urgent, panicked. We burst through the doors to find chaos. Lysandra was on a bed in the center of the main room, her body arched in agony, her face pale as death. Blood, so much blood, soaked the sheets beneath her. 3 healers worked frantically around her, their hands glowing with healing magic, their expressions grim. And standing to the side, looking lost and terrified, Kavreith. He looked up when we entered, his amber eyes widening in shock. "Thalindra? What are you— Don't," I said sharply. "Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Just—" I gestured to Lysandra. "What's happening?" One of the healers, an elderly woman I recognized as head healer Morna, looked up. Her face was drawn with exhaustion and worry. "The baby's in distress," she said bluntly, "positioned wrong, and she's hemorrhaging internally. I can try to save one of them, but not both. She needs to choose." "The baby," Lysandra gasped out, her voice weak. "Save the baby." "If we do that, you'll die," Morna said gently. "You understand that? You'll bleed out within minutes." "I don't care." Lysandra's hand went to her swollen belly. "Just, please, save my baby. That's all I want. All I've ever wanted." Drayvon stepped forward, his expression tortured. "Lysandra, I'm sorry." She looked at him, tears streaming down her pale face. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For lying about being your fated mate. For cheating on you. For taking advantage of you when you were drunk. For—" She coughed, blood flecking her lips. "For trying to trap you with this pregnancy. I'm sorry for all of it." "Why?" Drayvon's voice was rough. "Why did you do any of it?" "Because I loved you." More tears. "I still love you, and I was terrified of losing you again. So I lied. I manipulated. I did terrible things trying to keep you." She looked at me then, her eyes full of regret. "I'm sorry to you too, Thalindra, for throwing you out, for trying to come between you and Drayvon. You didn't deserve that." I wanted to hate her. Wanted to hold on to my rage and let her die, knowing I despised her. But looking at her now, dying, terrified, desperate only to save her child, I couldn't find the hate. "I forgive you," I heard myself say. Lysandra's eyes widened in shock. "You— what?" "I forgive you." I moved to stand beside the bed, ignoring the pain shooting through my body. "Not because you deserve it, but because I'm tired of carrying hate, tired of letting it poison everything." "We don't have much time," Morna said urgently. "If we're going to save the baby, I need to operate now, but it will kill her. You understand that?" "Do it," Lysandra whispered. "Please, just make sure the baby lives. Make sure—" She looked at Drayvon. "Make sure our child knows I loved them, that I gave everything to give them life." "Lysandra, no," Drayvon started, but she cut him off. "Promise me." Her hand reached for his. "Promise you'll tell them. Promise you'll be the father I know you can be. Promise." "I promise," Drayvon said, his voice breaking. "I promise, all of it." Lysandra smiled then, genuine and peaceful and almost relieved. "Thank you." She looked at me. "Take care of him. And the baby. Please. They're going to need you." Before I could respond, her body convulsed. Blood gushed from between her legs, and the healers sprang into action. "Now!" Morna shouted. "We need to operate now." What followed was the most horrifying thing I'd ever witnessed. The healers cut into Lysandra's belly with brutal efficiency, their hands moving with practiced speed. Blood everywhere, the stench of it filling the air. Lysandra's screams, God's her screams, echoing off the walls. Then, abruptly, the screaming stopped. And a new sound filled the room. A baby's cry. Thin and reedy and absolutely beautiful. Morna pulled a tiny, blood-covered infant from Lysandra's body and handed it to her assistant. "Girl," she announced, small but breathing. "Get her cleaned up." I looked at Lysandra's face, saw her eyes flutter, saw a smile pull at her lips as she heard her daughter's cry. Then her eyes went vacant. Her chest stopped rising. She was gone. "Time of death," Morna said quietly. "Just past midnight." Silence fell over the healing house. Even the baby had gone quiet, as if sensing the weight of what had just happened. Draven stood frozen, staring at Lysandra's lifeless body. His expression was unreadable. Grief and guilt and relief and horror all warring for dominance. The healer assistant approached with a small bundle wrapped in clean cloth. The baby, Lysandra, and Draven's daughter, was sleeping now, her tiny face peaceful. "Alpha Draven," the assistant said gently. "Would you like to hold your daughter?" Draven didn't move, didn't seem to hear. He just stared at Lysandra, his jaw clenched, his hands fisted at his sides. "Draven," I said softly, touching his arm. "The baby." He flinched like I'd burned him. I can't. His voice was rough. "She died because of me. Because I was too drunk to... Because I didn't." "She died giving life," I interrupted gently. "That was her choice. And now you have a daughter who needs you." "I don't know how to be a father," he whispered. "You won't fail her," I said firmly. "Because you're not doing this alone. You have me, and Elowen, and an entire pack who will help." "You'd help raise another woman's child?" Draven asked, finally looking at me. "After everything Lysandra did? After she's not Lysandra's child anymore," I said. "She's yours, and she's innocent. She deserves love and protection and a chance at life." I paused. "Just like Zephran deserved. Just like all children deserve." Draven's expression crumbled. He reached out with shaking hands and took the bundle from the healer. The baby stirred, her tiny fist waving, her rosebud mouth opening in a yawn. When Draven looked down at her, I saw his entire face transform. "She's beautiful," he breathed. "She's God's, she looks like you," I finished, seeing the resemblance. The same storm-gray eyes, just barely visible beneath translucent eyelids. The same stubborn set to her tiny jaw. "What should we name her?" Draven asked, looking at me. "She's your daughter. You should choose." "Our daughter," he corrected gently. "If you'll have us, both of us. If you'll help me raise her despite everything." I looked at the tiny girl in his arms, thought about Zephran, about the hole his death had left in my heart, about how this baby couldn't fill that hole, could never replace him. But maybe she didn't need to replace him. Maybe she could be something new, something hopeful, a chance to nurture life instead of mourning death. "Goddess," I said softly. "We should name her Goddess. It means burning one. For the fire she showed by fighting to live." "Goddess," Draven repeated, testing the name. He looked down at his daughter. "Hello, little goddess. I'm your father. And I promise I'll do better by you than I did by..." His voice broke. "Than you did by Zephran?" I finished gently. "Draven, what happened to Zephran wasn't your fault. You loved him, protected him, and in the end..." My own voice broke. "In the end, none of us could save him from Azrien's evil." Movement near the doorway made us both turn. Kavreith stood there, his face ashen, his eyes locked on the tiny bundle in Draven's arms. "She's beautiful," he said quietly. "Don't," Draven snarled, shifting to put himself between Kavreith and Goddess. "Don't come near her. Don't look at her. I'm not going to hurt her," Kavreith said, holding up his hands. He swallowed hard. "I wanted to make sure she was all right." "She is," I said coldly. "No thanks to anything you did." Kavreith flinched. "Thalindra, about earlier..." "We're not discussing that," I interrupted. "Not here, not now, not ever if I can help it. I need to apologize. You need to stay away from me." My voice was shaking now. "You need to let us leave this pack in peace. You need to..." I stopped, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. "You need to let go, Kavreith. Let go of me. Let go of the past. let go of this fantasy that we could ever be together again. I can't, he whispered. I can't let you go. Not when— Alpha! Beta Corin burst into the healing house, his face panicked. Alpha, we have a situation. The cells. Azrian, she's escaped. The room went deadly silent. What? Kavreith turned to Corin, his expression thunderous. How? The cells are guarded, reinforced with silver. Someone helped her, Corin panted, out of breath from running. We found 3 guards dead. Throats slit, and the cell door wide open. She's been gone for at least an hour. Maybe more. Rage flooded through me, hot and immediate. You lost her? You had one job. Keep the woman who murdered my son locked up until execution, and you lost her? We're searching the territory, Corin said quickly. Every available warrior is out looking. We'll find her. No, you won't. I knew it with bone-deep certainty. She's had an hour's head start. She's smart, ruthless. By now she's already out of your territory, already planning her next move. Then we track her, Kavreith said. Send warriors to neighboring packs. Put out alerts. She can't hide forever. She hid well enough to poison my son without anyone noticing, I said bitterly. She'll hide from this too. Elowen's hand was on my shoulder, steadying. We'll find her, she said quietly. Eventually. And when we do, I'll kill her myself, I finished. Slowly, painfully. In ways that make what she did to Zephran look merciful. Thalindra, Kavreith started. We're leaving, I interrupted. Now, tonight. Before anything else happens. Before— I looked at him, saw the devastation and guilt and desperate hope in his eyes. Before I do something I'll regret. You're in no condition to travel, Morna said, stepping forward. You've been through severe trauma. You need rest, healing, time to— I'll heal on the road, I said. I'll rest in Dead Moon territory, but I'm not staying here another minute. Dravon nodded, adjusting his grip on Goddess. My warriors will escort us back. We leave within the hour. Wait, Kavreith moved to block the door. Please, just one more night. Let me make this right. There is no making this right, I said quietly. You drugged me, violated me, took away my choice. And now my sister, the woman who murdered my son, is loose because your pack couldn't keep her contained. I met his eyes. You've taken everything from me, Kavreith. My trust, my safety, my son, my bodily autonomy. There's nothing left for you to take. So please— my voice broke. Please, just let me go. Kavreith stared at me for a long moment. Then slowly, he stepped aside. I'm sorry, he whispered. For all of it. For everything I've done. I walked past him without responding. Dravon and Elowen flanked me, and we moved toward the door. Thalindra, Kavreith called after me. I love you. I've always loved you. Please. I didn't look back. Couldn't look back. If I did, I might actually shift and tear him apart. We stepped out into the cool night air. Dravon's warriors were already mounted, ready to escort us home. Home. The word felt foreign. Did I even have a home anymore? Dead Moon had been temporary. Mountain Shadow was a nightmare. Where did I belong now? As if reading my thoughts, Dravon's free arm went around my waist, pulling me close. Home is wherever we make it, he said quietly. You, me, and Goddess. We'll figure it out together. I looked down at the sleeping baby in his arms, at the tiny life that had emerged from so much death and pain and trauma. And I felt something shift inside me. Not hope, not yet. But maybe the possibility of hope. The barest hint that life might continue despite the devastation. Together, I agreed. We mounted horses, Dravon riding with Goddess carefully secured against his chest, me on my own mount despite the pain, Elowen beside me with murder still written on her face. As we rode toward the border, I looked back one last time. Mountain Shadow Pack was lit up against the night sky. The pack house where I'd lived for 8 years. The territory where I'd been Luna. The place where my son had died. And standing in the doorway of the healing house, watching us leave, Kavreith. Alone. Broken. Everything he'd tried to control slipping. Through his fingers. I should have felt satisfaction. Vindication. Something. But all I felt was empty. We crossed the border as dawn was breaking. The moment we were in neutral territory, I felt something in my chest loosen. Just slightly. Just enough to breathe. "We're safe now," Elowen said, though she didn't sound convinced. "For now," I agreed. Because Azrien was still out there. Still alive. Still free to do gods knew what damage. And Kavreith would never stop looking for me. Never stop trying to get me back. Never accept that what we'd had was dead and burned beyond resurrection. But those were problems for tomorrow. Tonight, we just needed to survive. To get home. To rest. To begin the long, painful process of healing from wounds that might never fully close. I looked at Dravon, at the tiny bundle sleeping against his chest, and felt tears prick my eyes. We'd lost so much, but maybe, just maybe, we'd saved something too. Something small and fragile and precious. A chance, a beginning, a reason to keep fighting.